Welcome to a Legalbytes presentation of the Karen Reed murder trial.
Jurors,
If you're new here, my name is Alita. I'm a lawyer licensed in California and DC, and on this channel we make sense of the law one bite at a time. If you want more on the background of the Karen Reed case, check out our video on it linked in the description below. But otherwise, you be the jury. Did Karen Reed murder her Boston PD boyfriend John O'Keefe, or is she being framed by local police who Reed says are actually responsible for O'Keefe's death? Tell us what you think. But in the process, the one rule is don't be a dingus. Remember, everyone comes from their own perspective and opinion, and everyone comes to conclusions at their own pace. Agree or disagree, but always respectfully. Okay, let's get into it. All right, you guys. We are about to jump right back into, excuse me. We are about to jump right back into the testimony by Trooper Michael Proctor, or as some may call him, Proctor Trooper. Anyway, all right. So we had a brief lunch break, and then we in the direct examination. We're going to resume with direct examination. Question is, are we going to get to cross-examination? I know that is a big question on a lot of people's minds. It's certainly a big question on my mind, is whether we're going to see, is it going to be Action Jackson or is it going to be Mr. Yannetti who will be cross-examining? I doubt it would be Miss Little in this one, because this is a huge witness, of course, for both sides. And so one of the lead attorneys is definitely going to be taking on this one. So, all right, as usual, we are going to be saving questions in the chat. So if you guys have any questions, I will save them and answer them at a particular time when we can. So, but let's get on with it. Let's get started with it, shall we? All right.
Being there. When I tell you that I strike something from the record, I know I've told you before that.
Oh yeah, Jackson's the one who's been objecting. So yeah, he's going to be the one.
Means you're not to consider it.
Good point, guys.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Lally.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
So, with reference,
Mr. Lally, could you please speak up? Maybe use the microphone. The internet would thank you. Thank you very much.
to, I believe before we broke, we were talking a bit about Julie Albert and Christopher Albert, correct?
Yes.
And how would you describe your relationship, if any, between Julie Albert and Christopher Albert prior to January 29, 2022?
Loose acquaintances.
People that you knew through your sister, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, with reference to the occasions that you had said where you may have been at the same place at the same time at a family function or something like that, over what period of time are we talking about, and about how many different instances of that occurred over those years?
Like I had mentioned, they had never been to my house. It was either at my sister's home or at my parents' house. Over the course of maybe 10 years, I might have been at the same function half a dozen times.
And at those times that you were at the same function a half a dozen times or so, how much interaction would you have with either Christopher Albert or Julie Albert, or even Colin Albert at those functions?
Just casual conversation, be cordial, and just typical conversations, hi, how's it going, things of that nature.
Now, with reference to these experiences or relationships, or lack thereof, that you had with Christopher and Julie Albert, what, if any, conversations did you have with your supervisors, as far as superior officers within your unit, in regard to
I explained the connection with my sister to the Albert family.
And who did you explain that to?
That would be Sergeant Mechanic, Lieutenant Fanning, and Detective Lieutenant Tully.
All right, Trooper, I'm going to keep you
Okay. Are we back now? Are we back? Yes, we are. Okay. Good. We're back. All right. Let's continue.
Phone a little closer.
And just with respect
What keeps happening? Why do you keep
to those disclosures, what specifically did you tell either Sergeant?
Sorry, the judge asked Trooper Proctor to speak up because, or get closer to the mic or anything so that literally anyone could hear him.
Mechanical Lieutenant Fanning or Lieutenant Tullis?
Basically that the Alberts are my sister's friends, that I've been at some functions with them, and the only kind of connection with the Albert family is through my sister.
And just when you say the Alberts, as far as who specifically within the Alberts are you talking about that had a friendship with your sister?
Julie, Chris, and their son Colin.
Now, with regard to the investigation that you were conducting and the interviews that you conducted, what, if any, impact did those relationships have with regard to your interviews of them specifically or the investigation in total?
Zero. Absolutely zero impact on this investigation.
I mean, he's going to say that.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Document. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what do you recognize it to be?
It's a text message thread labeled Proctor Friends.
Oh,
Now, over the course of your
interesting. So is this the first time that Lally is going to truly get ahead of some bad facts on direct examination? Because I'm pretty sure this is the first time that he's really doing that. If that is text messages between Trooper Michael Proctor and some friends of his. Interesting. Let's see how well this takes out the sting.
your investigation over the course of this case, are you aware that there were iCloud data that was obtained from your personal cell phone?
Yes.
And different text strings from that iCloud data from your personal cell phone, correct?
Correct.
And with respect to what has just been placed before you, is that an excerpt or piece from those particular messages?
It is.
And from the front page of that, can you tell the jury who are sort of the participants in this particular text communication?
There's several numbers that aren't identified. The three that are under kind of nicknames me and my buddies have for each other.
Generally speaking, just as far as the participants in this text communication, who are these people to you, and how do you know them? How long have you known them? Who are they?
The members on this text thread are close friends from junior high, first grade even.
So people you've known for years, is that
Correct.
or do any of them live within the general area at this time?
Some of them do, yes.
And so when some of them do, some of them do not, is that correct?
Correct.
And the ones that do not, how far away do they live?
As far as Tennessee.
Now, with reference to this, there's an indication as far as the first message sent or last message sent from this particular text chain, correct?
I'm sorry, repeat the question, please.
Sure. Sort of towards the middle of the first page. Direct your attention to that area. Is there any indication as far as the first message sent and the last message sent with respect to this text chain?
On the first page, yes.
And what is indicated as far as the first message and the last message?
The first message is, I need to brandish a gun more often. The last is, Chip, name of that BPD cop.
No, I'm sorry, sir. If I could direct your attention to the first page in this packet, page 2527, you see conversation details.
Sorry, but even like, what did he just read? The first text in that group was someone saying that they need to brandish their weapon more often. That's okay. Questionable, weird, strange, but okay. Let's continue. That's probably not the part that Lally wanted him to read out, but okay.
I'm sorry, may I approach?
Yes.
If I could direct your attention to the right.
Okay.
Do you see what I was talking about now?
I do, sir.
And from that area labeled conversation details, there's a first message sent, date and time, and a last message sent, date and time, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What is the first message sent, date and time?
It's 10/18 of 2021 at 8:48 a.m. The last message sent is 8/31/2022 at 11:19 p.m.
And is there also within that conversation details an indication as far as number of messages over that time frame within this communication?
There is.
And what does it list for number of messages?
It's 38,707.
And fair to say the packet that you have before you does not contain all 38,707 messages, correct?
That's correct.
The first message that you had, I believe, alluded to in reference to the first one listed within this communication, what date and time is that?
That was January 29th, 2022 at 10:36 p.m.
And who is that message from?
My friend who lives in Tennessee.
And what, if anything, did he send to the group?
I need to brandish a gun more often.
And if you know, what is that in
Okay,
reference?
so it wasn't Trooper Proctor saying that. It was his friend saying that. So, okay. We don't know who that is, if he's a police officer or if he's, in some other line of work. Still kind of questionable, but at least like we can't attribute that to Proctor if someone else said it.
Reference to?
He just recently moved to Tennessee, and he was kind of, I think, making a joke as kind of the lifestyle down there where guns are more prominent or more common to be carried around there. So I interpreted that as a joke in that nature.
And the next message, sir, from that same page, 2527.
The next one is it's bold.
And is there a name associated with that number that's in these?
No,
Do you know who that person is?
I don't.
And the next message, sir, from 10:52 p.m.
Chip, name of that BPD cop.
And Chip, who is that referring to, sir?
That is one of my nicknames I've had.
What are you doing?
Wait a minute. Okay, let me go back 5 seconds because the stream went out.
On January 29th. Where are you and what are you doing in reference around that time period?
At this point in time, on the 29th, I'm home.
And that last text message, do you respond to that at approximately 10?
Come on. All right. So we should be back. Sorry about that. The stream interruptions. This island internet is not the best, but we're working with it. Let me go back 5 seconds.
The response above that, is that correct?
Yes.
And what does that say?
How old?
And you respond as far as he took custody of his sister's kids, correct?
Correct.
Skipping down a couple, do you see an entry at 10:53:49 p.m.?
Yes,
And that's from a 617 number, is that correct?
correct.
And what is the response there?
Oh man, that's rough.
And following that, do you respond to the earlier query as far as age?
I do.
And what did you say?
Mid-40s.
Now, the next message below that, as far as indication of mid-40s, what is that?
His age.
No, I understand that. I'm sorry. The next message underneath that, sir.
I'm sorry. It's a Facebook link.
And do you recall what that Facebook link is to?
It's to John O'Keefe.
And is that something you sent or one of your friends sent?
One of my friends sent.
And the next message below, turning to now page 2529 at the top there. What is the next message that's sent?
What's that? Don't have the book anymore.
And as far as the book, what did you understand that?
Facebook.
Maybe approach.
Sure.
All of this would be so much easier to follow if they actually put these text messages up on the screen. But I understand why the prosecution would not necessarily want to put these text messages up on the screen. They want this information to slide in and out of the minds of the jurors. But yeah, the book, I think that what they're referring to is Facebook, because of the fact that this was there was like a Facebook message or link that had just been sent. So we're going to fast forward through this part. While they do their sidebar.
10-minute break.
Okay. 1 second.
10-minute break. Okay.
Doing all right.
So the 10-minute break is probably going to be because they need some extended time to argue something that that Jackson just brought up to the attention of the judge. This is a very, very early break. Otherwise, that the only way to explain it is they need to go over something.
Copy for me.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
So do you have that copy for me?
Copy of something. Do they have some kind of emotion? They've got something. Okay. Judge is going to go read something in chambers. Okay. All right. So, all right then. Doctor Who 8675309. Could the text message be mirrored? That's pretty funny. That's good. That's a good one. That's a very good one. I have no response. Dionysia Jaclo, Wednesday is a full day. Yes, it is. And apparently tomorrow there's going to be a half day. I missed that from the judge. Maybe she will reiterate that at the end of today. I just love how this schedule is just constantly changing. Hawk Wind. Okay, useless info for what? Obscure the issue with Proctor. Maybe just to introduce more and more and more text messages, just to show like there's just a lot of text messages here. Like inundate the jury with text messages so that they seem less incriminating later. Possible. Jackie De Hernandez. Question: when is that depositions are used? Civil cases. I have heard of some criminal cases using depositions as well, but more often than not, it is used in a civil case as opposed to a criminal case. As a civil litigator, that's depositions were pretty routine, pretty default. Once you get into the discovery stage, you are going to be requesting documents. You're going to be requesting questions and answers in written form, and then also depositions of various witnesses so that you can get all of the evidence that you need, usually for either settlement discussions or for a motion for summary judgment or something like that. But sometimes if it does go all the way to trial, because then you have a baseline to compare a witness's testimony at trial to something else, and then you can impeach them with that. So sometimes there are depositions, and sometimes there's prior testimony elsewhere outside of depositions. Like in this case, there are multiple hearings that a lot of these witnesses have testified at, and then there are multiple statements that they've made to the police, multiple statements that they've made to one another, to the medical examiner's office, for example. So there are all kinds of statements that can still be used to impeach a witness in this particular case, even without the existence of depositions in this particular case. But you can have depositions in a criminal case as well. Heater, Legalbytes question. Earlier, the judge said to strike something, but allowed the witness to continue. Why would one allow a witness to continue with something will be stricken? Is that common? No. So what she said was, so there was an objection and a request to strike, and the judge said, "I will allow it, but I will allow the answer." But she basically invited the defense to object again after hearing the answer and to request to strike it again. She said, "I'll strike it if it needs to be struck." So in other words, what she was saying is, I don't really know what the answer is going to be. The question itself doesn't necessarily suggest that the answer is going to be objectionable or a problem or inadmissible. Ultimately, when the answer did come out, she didn't strike it, and then also the defense didn't object again, and they did not request to strike it. So she could have struck it on her own, but she also can wait for the other side to see if they want to object again. So that's what happened there. Jackie De Hernandez question: can the lawyer change for cross if it's 2 different days? So you typically need to have the same lawyer cross-examining across different days. The only exception is like some extraordinary circumstances. For example, if an attorney gets sick on the next day, or if they're called, outside of the courtroom to address some other matter, like family issues or other cases or things like that. That happened one time in this case earlier. This was last week. I think so. Last week before. I can't remember exactly which day. Excuse me. But Alan Jackson had started the cross-examination of, which witness was it? I don't remember. But he got to the very tail end of the cross-examination when the day was cut off. And then the next day, it was like the day after Memorial Day when he was supposed to come in and cross-examine again. And he was back in Los Angeles for some other matters. So the cross-examination was then picked up by Yannetti. Oh, was it Brian Higgins? It may have been Brian Higgins. That sounds about right. So yes, that was sort of an extraordinary circumstance because he was called all the way across the country. There was only one trial date that week, and it was a holiday. So like there were a number of factors that kind of converged. I think that the judge was like, yeah, that's okay, that's fine. So things like that, or the attorney getting sick, or some other kind of like family issue coming up like that, those are reasons why some judges might allow a switch when they otherwise will say, nope, one attorney. Generally speaking, the default is one attorney doing direct, one attorney doing cross-examination. And some judges will be okay with some back and forth on like which attorney objects then on the, as defense against the other side. But in this case, and this is it's my preference also, is that the side that's directing is going to be objecting on cross. The side that is cross-examining is going to be objecting on direct, and vice versa. Ardo Rissanen question: Legalbytes, did you save this question and will you answer it? Super important. Yes. The Lucian Legalbytes question regarding Proctor pleading the 5th midway through testimony. Can the fact that he pleaded specifically midway through a testimony be used in a trial against him? Did he did make statements before he pleaded, so it could be used against him, right? So in terms of like the statements that he's made and for his own, like those being used against him in his own criminal liability, I think those statements can still be used against him, whatever he has already testified to in his own separate matter. But as far as how those statements are used in this particular trial, all of that would have to be stricken from the record, because it's unfair to say, okay, well, now that he's pled the fifth, you can't cross-examine him. So, he's got all of his direct examination out there. All of that is super friendly to the prosecution. Now that the defense is getting up to cross-examine, he conveniently has pled the fifth. So therefore you have no chance to cross-examine. That also runs afoul of the defense or the defendant's right to confront all witnesses, right? Because cross-examination is very important in terms of a constitutional right by the defendant. We're going to be getting started in just a second. It sounds like. Solo cup evidence question. Legalbytes. Do you know if they had probable cause to take the car on the phone and seize and search it? They don't need it. They don't need it, and here's why. Because everything in this case points to the idea that she actually consented to them taking her phone and taking her car. So you only need probable cause. You only need a warrant. You only need any of these things if the person has not consented to the search. If they consent and they are able to consent, in other words, like of sound mind and all that kind of stuff, and it's also their property. It's not someone else's property. You can't consent to somebody else's property being searched. But if somebody consents, you don't need probable cause or any of that kind of stuff. Ashley Roman question. Alita, if you were answering your own poll today, what would you select? Guilty or not guilty? If I am open to my mind being changed. However, at this point, I still, as of yet, have too much reasonable doubt to convict. So that would lead me to lean not guilty. That said, I always retain the right to change my mind. So, but so far, I see nothing. Doctor Who 8675309. Why do long-term prosecutors become defense attorneys? They want to, I don't know, probably different reasons, but I mean, one could be the fact that they, want to be practicing, in a smaller firm as opposed to as part of the government. It could be because they've gotten disillusioned with being a prosecutor. It could be that they just want something different. They want a different kind of a challenge to look at these criminal trials from a different kind of perspective. I mean, there could be a number of different reasons, but yeah, or just the fun of it. Travis James question, is Rule 14 the same in all states? It's other states don't necessarily call it Rule 14. It's going to be maybe a different number that they use for it, but all states do have pre-trial discovery rules, and they tend to I was about to say they tend to mirror one another, but I shouldn't say that in this trial. They tend to have a lot of similarities across the board. There's a lot of similarity across the board. Generally speaking, most of the overarching themes are the same, but there might be some nuances here and there that are different from state to state. For example, there are deadlines and cutoffs for regular discovery. There are also deadlines and cutoffs for identifying an expert witness and producing that witness and their reports and everything to the other side so that they can look at it and their experts can look at it and comment on it and that kind of thing. Experts are always looking at each other's reports ahead of time. And there are, all kinds of cutoffs and rules and things like that tend to be very similar, if not the same, across jurisdictions in the U.S. Is my sound off? Let me see. It should be coming through my mic. Let me know in the chat, guys, if other folks are hearing my sound okay or not. Are we back? I think we're back. Okay. Debbie Faison Cook, Legalbytes, why are you licensed in DC? I never thought to ask before. Because I decided to move to DC at one point, and that was the one jurisdiction where I could actually get licensed by reciprocity from California. So that was, it's the one place you can get reciprocity from DC to other jurisdictions as well, but not like, for example, Virginia, Maryland, things like that, but not if you've gotten
put the
into
witness back,
DC
please.
through reciprocity. So anyway, yeah. All right. Okay, so sound is good for you guys also. Okay, good. Glad to hear it.
Procedure on?
Yes.
Trooper, if I could direct you back to page 2529 within that packet before you. And below that text stating what's that, I don't have the book anymore. You respond, is that correct?
Yes.
And what is it that you say there?
This one is a nightmare. Forget about the kids. That's awful.
And sir, if I could direct your attention again within that same packet to 2532. And there's a message there sent at 10:56 p.m. Is that correct?
Yes.
And who's that from?
A friend who lives in Tennessee.
And what does he say in that text?
I'm sure the owner of the house will receive some shit.
And you respond at 10:56 as well as 10:57. Is that correct?
Correct.
And what is it that you respond?
My first response was nope. Homeowner is a Boston cop too.
And what, if anything, were you saying, or what was the purpose of that text in regard to the homeowner?
I was just letting him know that essentially Mr. O'Keefe is a Boston cop and the homeowner was a Boston cop as well.
Now, if I could turn your attention to 2533. And top of the page, sir, if you could read through that page as far as who's texting and what are they saying?
I'm sorry. I need to go back. Because I think my attention was not here.
And who's that from?
I'm going to go back a little bit more.
Stating what's that? I don't have the book anymore. You respond, is that correct?
Yes.
And what is it that you say there?
This one is a nightmare. Forget about the kids. That's awful.
And sir, if I could direct your attention again within that same packet to 2532. And there's a message there sent at 10:56 p.m. Is that correct?
Yes.
And who's that from?
A friend who lives in Tennessee.
And what does he say in that text?
I'm sure the owner of the house will receive some shit.
And you respond at 10:56 as well as 10:57. Is that correct?
Correct.
And what is it that you respond?
My first response was nope. Homeowner is a Boston cop too.
Oh boy.
And
So that was from I do recognize that from the defense opening statements. They said that they were going to hear that the defense or that the jury was going to be hearing these kinds of text messages, seeing these kinds of text messages that were sent between Trooper Proctor and other people. And sure enough, there it is. It didn't even have to come in through the defense. How is Adam Lally going to frame this so that he can give Proctor an opportunity to contextualize, to say what he meant by that? That's what I would be looking for. Or is he just going to move on from the text message? I don't know. We'll find out. If I'm Lally, I'm going to try to really contextualize that a lot by giving Proctor all kinds of space to explain what he meant about that, because otherwise that just looks shady. It looks shady, or does it look suspicious?
Don't be suspicious. 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 Don't be suspicious.
John Ralphio?
Yeah, right. It does. It does. It okay. All right. Let's see if we can explain it.
What, if anything, were you saying, or what was the purpose of that text in regard to the homeowner?
I was just letting him know that essentially Mr. O'Keefe is a Boston cop and the homeowner was a Boston cop as well.
Okay.
Now, if I could turn your...
Well, okay, you're just repeating what you said in the text message, but what did you mean by that? What did you mean by that? We need an explanation, Mr. Trooper Proctor. Give an explanation. Explain it. Give some context. Let's go back. I want to hear that answer again.
I was just letting him know that essentially Mr. O'Keefe is a Boston cop and the homeowner was a Boston cop as well.
Now, if I could turn your attention to 2533.
So no context. No context. No additional explanation. Cross is going to be great. It's going to be very exciting because I don't know. This was his opportunity to soften that, to make that look better. And he, even on direct examination in a friendly environment, he's not able to explain himself. This is bad for the prosecution.
And top of the page, sir, if you could read through that page as far as who's texting and what are they saying?
Again, for my friend from Tennessee and myself, I hope not, but I can't see it. I responded with, she waffled him. I looked at his body at the hospital. He was banged up.
Now, as far as the next text from a 781 number, what does that say?
Did he get beat up?
And you responded to that, is that correct?
I did.
The objection is sustained as to form.
What, if any, response did you provide to that?
Nope.
Objection. The objection was to the form.
Are we back? Are we connected? Okay, I think we are.
Now, turning your attention to 2534. And from this page, sir, if you could, again, just read through as far as indicating to the jury who's speaking and what is being said.
From the start of the first text, so the owner of the house?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, one second here.
Yes.
So the owner of the house was a woman cop that beat him? That's what I initially thought after talking to Canton paramedic. Then I saw the guy.
And those last two are your responses, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, the following text messages are from your friends, is that correct?
Yes.
What do they say?
Bear, let's focus. What does she waffle to mean? What's the story?
Yeah,
responded,
I'd like to know. What does that
She
mean?
hit him with her car.
And the she that you're referring to there, who is that?
Miss Reed.
Now turning your attention to the next page, 2535. Again, if you could start at the top of the page and read through that page and just indicate to the jury who is talking and what is being said.
Okay. My friend in Tennessee states, okay, that's fucked up. I respond, intentional or not. Then another response, gotcha. He was frozen in the driveway and she didn't see him, question mark. That's another animal we won't be able to prove.
Oh,
And then I respond, they arrived at the house together, gone to an argument.
I think we'll speak out loud or out of turn.
The objection's overruled.
Your Honor,
But
if I could say this, there needs to be an identifier of who's
I
speaking.
understand what you think the mix-up is. So, Mr. Lally, go back.
Thank you.
Sir, if you could please, again, start at the top of the page and just indicate.
No,
as you go
just after the gotcha, he was frozen in the driveway, correct, Mr. Jackson?
That's correct, Your Honor. Thank you.
I respond, that's another animal we won't be able to prove. I fall.
oh, uh-oh. So that was Trooper Proctor that said that's another animal that we won't be able to prove. I mean, first of all, the fact that he's even talking about this with friends is messed up, entirely messed up, unprofessional at the very least, highly questionable. This is all supposed to be, there's supposed to be a layer of protection of information here. Shouldn't be leaking out to his friends what's going on in this investigation, but also him admitting through text messages that they're not going to be able to prove her hitting him in the snow. Huh. Interesting, fascinating. And it also is very interesting too that Alan Jackson objected at the point that he did, so that the jury could hear that twice. Oh man.
Follow that up. They arrived at the house together, got into an argument. She was driving and left. 781 number responds with, what's the name of the Canton cop living in Canton, the other one involved.
And how do you respond to that, sir?
There's several other messages before I issue a response.
Objection again. Bottom of the page.
So it's not an objection, but Mr. Lally, why don't you point him?
Go back because of the internet. Hang on. We good? Okay, I think so.
So, sir, at the bottom of page 2535, you have a response. Is that correct?
Correct.
And what is that response?
They arrived at the house together, got into an argument. She was driving and left.
Objection.
So it's going to be a matter you can address on cross.
There has to be some accuracy. If the reading
So
is-
I understand. So, Mr. Lally, why don't you go point for your witness?
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yeah, Lally would much prefer for all of this to become vague and impressionistic for the jury so that they kind of gloss over. But it's not going to work because Jackson is also going to come in and go over these text messages on his own with his own questioning. So you might as well do it right.
Okay. It's a HTML link, whiteout /Proctor iCloud /group chat Feb 2022. So you point out.
Yeah. Yeah, Jillian Spinoto. Yeah. Jackson is going to be displaying these on the screen, and the jury's going to be able to pay more attention to his
Lally,
side.
it's on there. Why don't you go show your witness? Why don't you just read it, Mr. Lally, and tell us who you attribute it to?
Sure. So, sir, what I'm asking you about is the bottom of page 2535, excuse me, 2535. You indicated biffed him, correct?
Correct.
What did you mean by that?
That Miss Reed had struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle.
Now, sir, if I could direct your attention to page 2537. Now, do you see a response toward the bottom of the page from yourself, January 29, 2022 at 11:04 p.m.?
Yes.
And can you read that response for the jury?
Yeah, but there'll be some serious charges brought on the girl.
And what did you mean by that, sir?
That throughout the course of the day, we had compelling evidence that Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle.
And you have two responses from friends, the same friends, at the bottom of that page, 2537. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what are those responses?
Keep your voice up loud, please. Trooper Proctor, jurors can't hear you.
Yes, Your Honor. Number ending in 5051. Got to be. I can only imagine what internal affairs of the BPD are trying to get out there. The second response, same number. She hot at least.
Oh, here we go.
And turning your attention to the next page, 2538, at the top, if you could just read a series of responses from yourself, correct?
Yes, sir.
Read from those, sir.
Yep. So these came from me. From all accounts, he didn't do anything wrong. She's a whack job. CUNT.
Ooh.
Objection.
He's got to read it.
So don't.
He's got to read it. If he texted it, he's got to read it the way it reads. He wants to say see you next Tuesday, but he's got to read it. She's going to make him do it, and it's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable, but he's got to do it.
Don't spell it. You have to. So these are your words, Trooper Proctor. Go ahead and say them.
How dislikable is he about to become, or is he now in front of the jury? Any women on that jury? Any men who prefer to be gentlemen or think that cops should be gentlemen? Like, oh, did I freeze? Folks, hang on. Oh no. All right, now I should be back. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, we're going to go back. We're going to go back just in case that you guys did not get it. We're going to go back and listen to this again.
And turning your attention to the next page, 2538, at the top, if you could just read a series of responses from yourself, correct?
Yes, sir.
Read from those, sir.
Yep. So these came from me. From all accounts, he didn't do anything wrong. She's a whack job. CUNT.
Objection.
So don't spell it. You have to. So these are your words, Trooper Proctor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead and say them.
Cunt. Yes, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass.
Yeah, it's like that pause. He didn't want to read it. He didn't want to read it because he's commenting in ways that he should not. So, yeah, this is somebody who is now incredibly unlikable to a lot of people. Any women on the jury most likely are going to find him unlikable because, how it's bad enough to be finding yourself the subject of a criminal investigation. It's bad enough to be finding yourself a criminal defendant. And then on top of that, to have the indignity of someone commenting on you in that particular way when they are supposed to be the professionals in the room. This is incredibly unlikable. Incredibly unlikable. So, and this is direct examination cross-examination, Jackson's going to be pouncing all over it. This is not a good look. Not a good look for the Massachusetts State Police. Not a good look for Proctor himself. Not a good look for the prosecution. Not a good look for like the government in this particular case.
And sir, what is it that you were referring to there, or why would you text that?
These were, from all accounts, he didn't do anything wrong. Is talking about the homeowner, Mr. Albert. I had mentioned the compelling evidence against Ms. Reed at this point indicated that Mr. Albert had nothing to do with Mr. O'Keefe's death. The rest of the unprofessional and regrettable comments are something I'm not proud of, and I shouldn't have wrote in a private or any type of setting.
No shit. No shit.
Sir, at some point, if I could turn your attention to page 2540. And there's a photograph that's shared within this text communication, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And does it indicate who shared that photograph? From the prior page, possible.
The number ending in 5051.
And who is depicted in that photograph that was shared within the group text?
All right. All right. And we're back. Should be. No, now we're back. Okay.
And these are all from February 1st of 2022, around that time frame, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, sir, if I could direct you to page 2543.
So those text
And sir,
messages
if I
were
could
from the
direct you to
first.
the top of the page and ask you to read through that page, indicating who's speaking and what the content of those communications are.
Okay. Number ending in 4146. Question is that chick a smoke?
Hang on. Sorry. Let's go back really quick.
I direct you to page 2543.
Hang on.
Around that time.
It's Miss Reed being escorted out of the state. Number ending in 50.
Sorry. Yeah. The photo part. I want to make sure we get it.
From the prior page, possible.
The number ending in 5051.
And who is depicted in that photograph that was shared within the group text?
It's Miss Reed being escorted out of the state police Milton Barracks.
And these are all from February 1st of 2022, around that time frame, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, sir, if I could direct you to page 2543.
So the photo was of her being escorted by the police. So in other words, showing that she is a babe, has no ass. She's a see you next
And sir, if I
Tuesday.
could direct you to the top of the page and ask you to read through that page, indicating who's speaking and what the content of those communications are.
Okay. Number ending in 4146. Question is that chick a smoke? Again, 4146 question mark. I respond EH. I respond again, nut bag, as chief would say.
Nut bag, as the chief would say, as in Chief Berkowitz, the police chief that we've heard, or is this a a Massachusetts excuse me, or is this a Massachusetts State Police chief?
I also respond with she's got a leaky balloon knot, leaks poo.
What? I'm sorry, what?
And what, if anything, is that in reference to, sir?
Again, to misread some medical conditions there. Again, unprofessional
Holy crap.
comments I should not have made, that I'm not proud of.
Oh, okay. So it's not enough that he's referring to her ass and other things like that. And oh, okay. So he's also going to make fun of her for a medical condition. This is just going brilliantly for the prosecution and for Proctor right now. Jesus. This is infuriating. Like it's like when you get to the point of like beyond, I mean, it's bad enough to have lewd comments about the defendant, but now we're getting into comments about her medical conditions, which are incredibly embarrassing and uncomfortable as it is. And I mean, just, we don't even need to explain that, right? But then for him to be using that to make fun of her for it, this is just absolutely just infuriating, completely infuriating. This is a lead investigator.
Attitudes expressed within these text messages and other text messages. What, if any, impact did that have as far as your investigation was concerned regarding this?
These they said these are unprofessional comments, but they absolutely do not detract from the integrity of the investigation or the facts and evidence of it.
Believe me now. Don't believe how I comported myself with my friends when no one was looking, or at least when I thought that no one was looking. Believe me in the way that I'm comporting myself now in front of you, dear jury. Like, what? It's just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Like you have to laugh because it's just so infuriating. Otherwise, like, what else can you do? Good God. Of course this didn't impact the investigation in any kind of a way. Really? Are you sure about that? Can we really conclude that?
Your Honor, may I approach this retrieve?
Yes.
Now, Trooper Proctor, contained within, you've seen text messages amongst yourself and a variety of different people from that same sort of iCloud area of your personal phone, correct?
Correct.
And among those, are there communications you have?
Hang on. Are we back yet? Are we back yet? Okay. Now I believe we're back. Okay.
Would you characterize, or what was the general content of communications that you had with members of the Canton?
One communication was to coordinate interview times for firefighters and police officers and to set up a conference room where those interviews could be conducted. Obviously, the presence of Canton detectives or any police officers were not going to be sitting in on these interviews. Another communication was to inquire of relevant security videos that are in the area. Their local department, they know the area very well, so I reached out and asked if there's some good cameras in the area that I had of kind of interest in.
May I approach?
Yes.
We're gonna
It was between my
excuse me.
What do you recognize that to be, sir?
text communications between my sister and I.
That's your sister Courtney, is that correct?
That's correct.
And similar to what I'd asked you about the prior packet, as far as a first message sent, date and time, last message sent, date and time, what is indicated on this first page?
First message sent, date, time, December 10th, 2021 at 9:33 p.m. Last message sent, 8:30, 2022 at 8:48 p.m.
And 8:30, that's August 30th, is that correct?
I'm sorry, yes, August 30th, 2022.
And similarly to the other messages, is there an indication as far as how many number of messages were sent between yourself and your sister over that time period?
2,865.
And fair to say that the documents in front of you do not contain 2,865 messages?
Correct.
Now, just in reference to the first message on page 2662, the first page in this packet, do you see that from December 10th of 2021 at approximately 9:33 p.m.?
Yes.
And what does that indicate?
A text message from my sister.
And what does it say?
I called earlier, Dolph earlier, and Mom was puking in the background.
And do you recall what that was in regard to?
From the sounds of it, my mother had the stomach bug.
And sir, if I could direct your attention to page 2667. And these are text messages from January 29th, 2022, between yourself and your sister Courtney, correct?
Correct.
And if you could read from the top of the page through the end, and please indicate to the jury as far as who's talking and who's saying what.
So I texted my sister at work, "What's up?" She responds, "What? Why?" I respond, "I just found it frozen to death on a front lawn in Canton this morning.
Yeah.
Actually just interviewed Jen McCabe, said she knows you."
And they knows you.
Uh-huh. Okay. So also talking to his sister about this case. So this is starting to feel secret intermediaries between the Alberts and between Trooper Michael Proctor, because there's evidence of a communication link here. Maybe, I don't know. We'll find out. Let's see what what else comes out in these text messages between him and his sister. Why is he talking to her about this investigation at all? Why is he talking to all of these people about this investigation? Why can't he keep his dumb yap shut when he's talking about professional stuff?
You, who are you referring to?
My sister.
And how did your sister respond to that?
Cut the shit. I responded, "You." It was a typo correction with my response to you. She responded, "Yeah, she knows Jack very well. She's really good friends with Julie." My sister continues on. Her sister is married to Brian Albert. My sister asks, "You still working?" ? I says, yeah, going to be out for a while. Homicide.
And as far as your answers to those questions, or as far as your communications that you had with your sister at this time on the afternoon of January 29th, what were those in regard to, or why were you communicating that to your sister?
At that time, it was just kind of in the news. I was just kind of letting her know I was out working. She didn't share anything specific. I wouldn't share anything specific on cases with my family or anyone.
Just who you interviewed, like who you talked to about it, who was maybe involved in the case. So, okay, other than those details, you don't really talk about any kind of specifics about the case. Like, do those not count as specifics?
It was just kind of an overall innocent conversation.
Now, turning your attention to the next page, 2669. Again, if you could read from that page as far as who was talking and what the content is.
All right. My sister starts off, "The Canton thing is a homicide." I respond, "This is at 3 in the afternoon on the 29th. Don't say a word to anyone." She said, "Of course not." I respond, "In the very least, it's suspicious." She responds, "This is your livelihood." And then I would never miss with that. At 3:07, I respond, Julie and Chris were at the bar with the victim and girlfriend. Got to interview them.
So he himself says that it was suspicious. And then he says that he needs to interview the people that she knows. What the F? Why is he talking with her about this? Why is he sharing this information? Just generic information that he says? No, I'm sorry.
Don't be suspicious. 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 Don't be suspicious.
John Ralphio?
Just like, why? Why? This is horrific. This is absolutely horrific. How can anybody convict her on this? This is insane. This is absolute insanity. He himself said that it was suspicious. And then he lists the other people that she knows that he was seen with the night before. Of course, come on, internet. Oh my God, seriously.
I can direct your attention to page 2672.
Like, let me tell you guys, like, getting ahead of bad facts and taking the sting, or to take the sting out of those bad facts, it only works when the explanations that the witness can give are actually able to help take out that sting. His explanations suck. They don't really help the situation. Like, the only thing that this helps with is for a change, the prosecution is actually forthcoming in presenting this instead of looking like they're trying to hide it.
These are messages from February 1st, 2022. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the one at the top starts about February 1st, 5:57 p.m. Is that correct?
Yes.
And again, if you could read through as far as who's speaking and what the content of those messages are.
I texted my sister, "What's up?" She responded, "Nothing. I just saw Julie, and she said when this is all over, she wants to get you a thank you gift." And I respond, "Get Elizabeth one." Elizabeth's my wife. And my sister responds, "Because I guess her and Chris were friends with John, and she's so proud of you for leading this." And then she writes, "Elizabeth, question mark?" I respond with, "She's been stuck with the kids for the last 10 nights. My sister responded with, "Yeah, but she knew what life is like married to a cop."
Gifts to an officer for a case that they are intimately involved in. I'm sorry. So let me tell you guys a little bit of story time. So one time I had a deposition for a personal injury case. It's like the one personal injury case that I've done. It was a car accident. It was a car crash. And so there was of course a cop that arrived at the scene and took statements and all that kind of stuff. And so he had to be deposed. And there was a mess up with getting the court reporter in the Times or something like that. And so all of us had to wait on this court reporter to arrive. And we were all just kind of hanging out. And I just out of like hostessing or what have you, offered lunch to this officer to, while he was waiting, just to kind of be kind. And he was like, and he reminded me, he's like, "No, I'm not allowed to accept that, but thank you very much. It's kind of you." And I was like, duh, of course, because you can't offer anything, or you can't, they can't accept any kind of a gift in any form, even if it's like free lunch for his time for sitting around waiting for a deposition. And so that was just like, duh, of course. And here you have someone who is intimately involved in in an investigation, in a case, in a criminal case involving a homicide or a potential homicide, and they are buying gifts for the lead investigator. And he's saying, give it to my wife. That's just, it doesn't matter whether it's him or his wife. That's accepting a gift from someone that this is bad. This is just so bad.
And sir, as far as the
Asked for a gift. My wife never received a gift. She never asked for a gift.
Okay, but it was offered.
so how would you describe this context of this conversation, or why that's being discussed at this time?
Again, I don't know the thought process of my sister and Julie as far as bringing that idea of a gift into play. Like I said, I didn't ask for one. I never received one. The same with my wife.
Sir, if I could direct your attention to page 2676. And again, if I could ask you to start at the top of the page and read through and just indicate as far as who is saying, who is speaking and what they're talking.
I start out, we write like 8 to 12 warrants on each case. My sister responded, no, I have no idea what the hell you do or how it works. I responded on the 10th at 7:36 p.m. I'm starving, but I also just want to go home. Thanks, though. My sister responds, yeah, but is dinner going to be waiting? She responded with, ha, ha, ha. And then I responded, yep. And then my sister responded with, okay, it's fine. Mom and I just don't want to go home.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
All right. Fast forward.
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize that?
This is private messages between my wife and I.
Uh-oh.
Again, what is your wife's name?
Elizabeth.
And what, if anything, does that indicate as far as dates and times and number of messages involved?
Okay, so the first message sent 5/20/2022 at 6:19 p.m. The last message sent 8/31/2022 at 9:16 p.m.
And what, if any, indication does it give as far as number of messages within that text chain?
1,632.
And of those 1,162, there's one message that's listed on that. Is that correct?
Correct.
And what is the date and time of that message, and what does it say, and who's speaking?
This is me speaking on June 9th, 2022 at 4:56 p.m. I text my wife, waiting to lock this whack job up.
Oh.
And what are you referring to in that text, sir?
I'm referring to the arrest after Ms. Reed was indicted by the grand jury.
And again, as far as the terminology that you use in that text message to your wife, why is that?
Again, unprofessional messages I should not have sent. I don't have an explanation other than they're regrettable and it's something I'm not proud of, the language I used.
And also, you don't talk specifics about the case with anyone, right? Except for your sister, your wife, your friends from junior high and high school. Anybody else? Maybe the postal guy when he's delivering the mail. Who did you not talk about this case with, sir?
I approach to retrieve your.
Yes. All right, so Trooper Proctor, the jurors can't hear you. So speak directly into your microphone the way I'm doing, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Speak up when you are giving testimony that makes you look absolutely horrific. We need to make sure that the jury can hear you when you say these terrible things. Like, that's what that sounds like. Of course, she's been saying it to everybody, but that is what that sounds like. Okay. Are we back? Okay. Yes. I think we are back. But yeah, I mean, it's like that was as if Judge Canoni was like, louder for the people in the back, Trooper Proctor. Let's do it. Oh my goodness. This is just insane. You have to laugh at it because it's just so insane. Okay. Fast forward. So they're reviewing they're going to approach now. Okay. Going to lock this whack job up, he said.
Now, Trooper Proctor, you're familiar with conversations that within the same text communications from your personal phone with colleagues of yours at the state police?
Yes.
And Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
I mean, the other part of this too is that like he only has 1,632 messages with his wife. That's the least out of everyone. He talks to his sister by text message more than he talks to his wife. That doesn't mean that he doesn't talk to his wife. That means that most of his conversations is just not by text message. So either they're by phone or they're in person. So the other question there is like, what other conversations has he had with other people, to include his wife, about this particular case, which is detailing the investigation and otherwise highly, highly improper, that are like, you know, over the kitchen table. Like, what else has he said to other people that just wasn't by text message, because he wasn't so dumb as to put it into a text message? All right, still going through.
Counsel.
Okay, they're going to have a moment to confer.
Back to document, sir.
Yes.
I mean, the irony is by him exposing Karen Reed's, you know, like humanity or what have you, by talking about her lewdly with with his friends, and by talking about, you know, making jokes about her medical condition on all that kind of stuff. Like, he's ironically exposing himself to the same treatment just by the entire world. So this is like the karmic beauty of this whole thing, that of this whole situation, I should say. Also, Desiree Morgan, thank you so much for the super chat. Question: now I understand why they held off calling him to take the stand for so long. Yeah, right? We haven't even gotten to cross-examination, and already the defense has kept their promises from their opening statements about Trooper Michael Proctor, because this guy is a complete scumbag.
You went on the document, sir. Before I get into that, though, if I could turn your attention back to some of the comments on the language used in the January 29th and February 1st or 2nd text communications among your friend group. With reference to that particular time frame in the language that you used, what sort of information had you gathered to that point, and why would you say or use that particular language particularly in your descriptions of the defendant?
So this is, 16, 18 hours later, and I conducted multiple interviews.
Speak up.
Conducted multiple interviews. We knew Mr. O'Keefe never went into Fairview Road. We knew there was one shoe at the scene, one shoe at the hospital. Based off Mr. O'Keefe's injuries, Miss Reed's statements when Sergeant Buchanan and I interviewed her, her broken taillight, the missing taillight, some taillight pieces found at the scene, the compelling evidence pointing directly at Miss Reed that she struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle, led me to make those comments.
What?
Whether, like I said, they weren't professional comments, but based on the day's investigation, it was clear that Miss Reed had struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle.
Really? 16 to 18 hours in, that was super clear. That was super clear, 16 to 18 hours. You weren't going to look down any other avenues. This is just absolutely wild. I mean, anytime a defendant, says you made a conclusion too soon, it's, you're supposed to take that with a grain of salt because, they're always going to argue that in any kind of a criminal case. Maybe not always, but usually that's going to be an argument that comes up in any kind of a criminal case. And so, very often you're like, okay, well, you say that, but they don't have to turn over absolutely every stone evidentiarily speaking. Can I talk? In terms of like looking down every possible avenue for who could possibly be the proper defendant in this particular case, who done it. But here we have him testifying now in the midst of all of this terrible, terrible testimony about these awful text messages that he's sending to people about her. And he says, yes, not even 24 hours into this investigation, I concluded that it had to be Karen Reed. It was no one else. Nothing else mattered. It was her. So on top of that, we also actually have testimony from this particular witness saying, yep, 16 to 18 hours in, I knew it. We didn't need to go anywhere else. We didn't need to look at anybody else. That was it for me. It's just, there's so much sus. There's so much sus here. Heather Miller, thank you so much for the super chat. There were other days I thought Lally hated his job. Today has to take the cake. Almost feel bad for him, but not quite. LOL. This is just, oh my God. So a Doctor Who 8675309, Dr. Turtleboy says there's 10 female jurors. He's screwed if that's the case. He's absolutely screwed if that's the case. Hey, look, and women are not a monolith, right? Women have diverse opinions on all kinds of things, whether it's politics, religion, the female experience, right? Like we don't all think the same on everything. But when it comes to degrading a woman's body, that is usually going to hit in a particular way for most women. So that's something that is going to be something that very likely hits with a number, if not all of those women.
Sir, if I could turn your attention to the documents before you, do you recognize those?
I do.
And as far as the participants in that particular conversation, who are the participants listed there?
It's Trooper David DeChico and myself.
And Trooper DeChico and yourself both work within the same unit with the state police, is that correct?
That's correct.
And beyond the professional relationship you have with yourself, between yourself and Trooper DeChico, how would you characterize your relationship, generally speaking?
We're buddies, we go off together, hang outside of work, our kids play together. So I'd say, we're friends.
Now, within the, again, as far as the first message sent, date and time, and last message sent, date and time within this conversation, if you could describe that for the jury.
First message sent, date and time, March 17th, 2022, 11:08 a.m. Last message sent, date and time, August 18th, 2022, 6:08 a.m.
And again, the number of messages listed within this text chain.
87.
And fair to say the documents before you do not contain 87 text messages, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Now, just in general terms, if you have an opportunity to just look at the first couple pages there, fair to say those.
I'm sorry, I do need to go back because I missed who this is with.
Again, as far as
We go off together, hang outside of work.
between yourself and beyond the professional relationship you have with yourself, between yourself and Trooper DeChico, how would you characterize your relationship, generally
Trooper DeChico, okay.
We're buddies, we go off together, hang outside of work, our kids play together. So I'd say, we're friends.
Yeah,
Now,
sorry,
within
guys. I needed to go back.
Again, as far as the first message sent, date and time, and last message sent, date and time within this conversation, if you could describe that for the jury.
First message sent, date and time, March 17th, 2022, 11:08 a.m. Last message sent, date and time, August 18th, 2022, 6:08 a.m.
And again, the number of messages listed within this text chain.
87.
And fair to say the documents before you do not contain 87 text messages, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Now, just in general terms, if you have an opportunity to just look at the first couple pages there, fair to say those are just sort of jokes that you have going back and forth between yourself and Trooper DeChico. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Were these jokes that were professional in nature? Are they going to make you look good or are they going to make you look bad? I think we all kind of know how this is going to go.
Now, if I could turn your attention specifically to page 2632. And these are text messages starting on April 28th, 2022 at 10:52 in the morning. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, what was the time again, sir?
April 28th, 2022, 10:52 a.m.
Yes, correct.
And again, sir, with reference to this page, if you could read the content to the jury and please indicate whom is speaking at each respective times.
Okay.
Really quick here before it escapes me. Megan Nelson, thanks so much for being a member for 3 months, member of Bite Club. I don't think prosecution are able to save face bringing up any of this before the defense. This information is just bad on so many levels. Yeah, the only thing that this does for me is it shows that they're not hiding from it, but it's still really, really, really bad. Marcus, thanks for the super chat. It's weird to hear you be critical of his comments when you keep using the Lord's name in vain. Kind of hypocritical, even if in different context. It's not the way that I mean it, but okay. You are entitled to your opinion as well.
Okay. I said out without a doubt, he's got diarrhea of the mouth too. Trooper DeChico, rookie move, not going into a meeting with the ME and getting that homicide determination. I respond, Yuri and I had 2 conference calls with her, sent her numerous photos, etc. We laid out the entire case for her. Trooper DeChico responds, not good enough, should have had me or Jeff do it.
Holy crap. Holy crap. This is even talking about how they wanted to direct the medical examiner on their determination on the manner of death, accidental versus homicide. I'm sorry. No, we've got to go back and listen to that again. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. Yeah, we're going back. We're gonna listen to this again.
And these are text messages starting on April 28th, 2022 at 10:52 in the morning. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, what was the time again, sir?
April 28th, 2022, 10:52 a.m.
Yes, correct.
And again, sir, with reference to this page, if you could read.
Are we still frozen or are we good? I just want to make sure that we've got this. Okay. All right.
The content to the jury and please indicate whom is speaking at each respective times.
Okay. I said out without a doubt, he's got diarrhea of the mouth too. Trooper DeChico, rookie move, not going into a meeting with the ME and getting that homicide determination. I respond, Yuri and I had 2 conference calls with her, sent her numerous photos, etc. We laid out the entire case for her. Trooper DeChico responds, not good enough, should have had me or Jeff do it. I respond, if you 2 did it, she would have made it accidental or natural causes.
And can you explain?
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is just insane. This is insane. Talking about, how they want to direct the medical examiner on what the medical examiner should be determining. This is just, how can you possibly convict someone? How can you possibly convict someone with this evidence? This is like, I can't even Like, I can't even wrap my mind around this. Just because, thanks so much for the super chat, move to redefine mass holes to not refer to Massachusetts drivers, but instead to Massachusetts bad Leos and other bad actors. Like, this is like, if you look up in the Oxford Dictionary, bad actor, you find a photo of Trooper Michael Proctor. Like, this is just like, how can how can you look at this case at this point and say, yes, this was a legitimate investigation. This was done properly. Yes, the lead investigator who is in charge of getting the evidence and gathering them and providing them to the prosecution so that this is done in a court of law in a way that all of us can trust and make sure that the wheels of justice are moving in the way that they should be. How can you possibly look at this case and say, yep, I trust this process with this guy involved? Holy cannoli is absolutely right, Hazoa. Seriously, this guy, I can't.
Explain the context of those communications, or what exactly is it that you and Trooper DeChico are talking about in that communication?
Okay. So the ME is the medical examiner. They conducted the autopsy of Mr. O'Keefe. Our office, it's kind of a little bit of a locker room.
Hold on, wait for the ambulance and then speak up. The jury.
One second. We have to, because the cops are coming for him, right?
Right to jail, right away.
Just right to jail.
Right to jail, right away.
That's it. That's the only thing we can do. Holy crap.
Jurors can't hear you way back where the court officer's standing.
So like I said, the ME stands for medical examiner. They conducted the autopsy of Mr. O'Keefe. I guess I'll address the conference calls Sergeant Buchanan and I had with the medical examiner. The doctor had some questions as to the facts and evidence, kind of what had transpired, which is common. You know, even if it's a homicide, I've had many calls with the medical examiner's office, even if it's a suicide or overdose, always with a homicide, the doctor wants to know what transpired. Trooper DeChico and myself, we kind of like to bust each other's chops, go back and forth. So that's what he meant by saying, rookie move, not going into a meeting with the ME and getting that homicide determination. The original determination came back.
Sustained. Next question.
Yeah, it's hearsay. The determination itself is hearsay. So that's going to come in through the medical examiner. But so he can't testify to that. But we will hear about it. It's just going to be through the medical examiner. Mark, or Mr. W, thank you so much for the super chat. At the very least, the investigation was too quick to judgment. At the worst, it was followed up by manipulation and conspiracy. I 100% agree. I could not agree more. Jesus, this is just cheese and rice. This is the worst.
Now, as far as attending the autopsy, is that something that typically someone within your office would do, within your unit would do with regard to any sort of death investigation?
Yes.
And do you know who attended the autopsy of Mr. O'Keefe in this specific case?
Trooper O'Keefe.
And so as far as Trooper DeChico's reference to you not going in, or Sergeant Mechanic not going in, is that what you believe Trooper DeChico was referring to in that message?
Objection.
Sustained as to the form.
You indicated that you and Trooper DeChico bust each other's chops. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And can you describe a little more, expound upon that as far as the nature of your relationship and sort of the text messages that you exchange in this and then other communications that you have?
Basically just, kind of needling each other, and him doing that is by saying, texting me, rookie move, not going into meeting with the medical examiner. So that's a perfect example of him kind of just needling me, which We do on a daily basis.
This reflects so poorly on the entire Massachusetts State Police. It really does, because it's like the question now is like, it's not just Trooper Michael Proctor, it's also Trooper Chico. It's also, who else was he talking to that they are needling each other behind the scenes about this particular case and trying to say you should have gotten this particular medical examiner to make this kind of a conclusion, make this kind of a determination. And they are JV enough. This is the junior varsity team, apparently, who is dumb enough to also put this all in text messages. Like, that's the thing, is that the only reason why this is coming into trial is because of the fact that this is all coming in from text messages. If they had said this in person, no one would know about it. None of us would ever hear about it. But because of the fact that they were dumb enough, thankfully, because now, sunshine cures all not all diseases, but it's the best disinfectant, so to speak. We can know about it, and then hopefully something can be done about it in the future. And as it regards this particular case, we can see what looks a hell of a lot like massive police corruption, and the jury can make their determinations and conclusions with all of that in mind. Good God, come on, man.
And as far as your interpretation of that, did you interpret that as a serious comment or something said in jest?
I interpreted that as a typical joke from Trooper Chico.
Oh, a typical joke from Trooper Chico. So in other words, he does this all the time. This is just how they talk. So once again, I'm renewing my commentary from like a minute ago and saying this reflects super poorly on the entire Massachusetts State Police.
Now, may I approach to retrieve?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Stephen Horton. I completely agree with what you're saying. You only hear the bad cops that do. If they're doing their job correct, you'll never hear a thing. And that is the unfortunate thing, because there are plenty of cops out there that are doing their job well, doing it right, and not being dirty cops. It sucks because, they get overlooked because of crap like this.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you another document, asking, do you recognize that?
Yes.
Do you recognize that to be?
Text messages between myself and Trooper Chico.
And again, what is the first message sent, date and time, last message sent, date and time, and number of messages contained therein?
First message sent, date and time, April 28th, 2022 at 1:09 p.m. Last message sent, date and time, April 28th, 2022, 4:45 p.m.
And the number of messages, sir?
4.
And if you could read the contents of those messages contained therein. Please indicate who's speaking.
So I started out, of course, it's undetermined. She was a whack job. Trooper Chico responds, "Dear God, WTF, what the hell is inconclusive about the whole thing?"
And as far as your indication there, as far as she was a whack job, who are you referring to there?
Miss Reed.
Now, as far as the undetermined of what you're talking about, what is sort of the content or the context of this conversation?
That would be the manner of death was determined to be undetermined by the medical examiner's office.
So I ask you again, as far as your reference there in the bottom of the first page, as far as she was a whack job, whom do you believe you're referring to there?
Again,
Reed or the medical examiner?
Miss Reed.
The other thing too is that this actually starts to feel like there's desperation on behalf of the Massachusetts State Police or particularly Trooper Michael Proctor. So, if it feels like they're very frustrated with what's coming out of the actual evidence when it's not them having hands on it, then the question is, what does that lead them to do when they have this kind of motivation and they think that she's a whack job and they think that absolutely she should be thrown in jail because they believe that she is, regardless of what the actual evidence says that is presented. So what are they going to do when push comes to shove with all that frustration and this very firm belief that she is guilty? So what does that lead them to do? This also presents the possibility of someone who then decides to go and act in desperation, in other words, to start planting things. So this is all just feeding into the defense case in chief and all of their arguments that Trooper Michael Proctor played an instrumental role in framing her. So whether people believe that or not, of course, is up to interpretation. The jury is going to make up their minds, but this is something that starts to present itself as a viable argument.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yeah, Jeff Hoff, thanks for the super chat. Not great when you have to rehabilitate your own witness. I completely agree. And the thing is, how well are they rehabilitating their own witness? Ugh. Fast forwarding.
On this packet.
Okay, sidebar. Okay, fast forwarding through the sidebar. Getting a little caught up here, perhaps. Okay, now we're back.
Do you recognize those, sir?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize those to be?
Another text thread between myself, Trooper DeChico, and Trooper Kokowski.
And Trooper Gaskowski is another trooper within your unit in the state police, is that correct?
Yes.
And again, if you could read from the first message sent, date and time, and the last message sent, date and time.
First message sent, date and time, 5/24/2022, 9:21 p.m. Last message sent, date and time, 8/24/2022, 4:56 p.m.
And as far as the number of messages indicated within this text chain between yourself, Trooper Kakowski, and Trooper DeChico,
494.
fair to say the documents before you do not contain 494 text messages, correct?
Correct.
Just in reference to that first page, 2635, first message sent, that's May 24th, 2022, around 9:21 p.m., is that correct?
Yes.
And that's a message sent from Trooper Kaskowski, is that correct?
Correct.
And what is that?
Appears to be a picture of a toy Santa Claus.
Now, sir, if I could direct your attention to page 2644. If I could direct you to the bottom of the page, sir, and see the text from yourself at June 9th, 2022 at 11:19 p.m.
Yes.
Very bottom of the page. And Your Honor, may I approach just to point it out?
Yes.
Yeah, I see it, sir. Okay.
If you could read what you wrote on June 9th, 2022, around that time, sir.
If you like women who shit themselves.
Wow.
And again, sir, what is it that you're referring to there?
Again, a regrettable comment I made about Miss Reed's medical condition.
Wow. Great.
Now, if I could direct you to the following page, 2645.
I like you even more, she said sarcastically.
And again, if you could read from that page as far as who is, and indicate to the jury who is speaking and what is being said on page 2645.
I'm speaking right now. The statement she made tonight at 8/7 was mental. Thank Christ it was on BWC, which is body worn camera. Trooper Kokowski responds, "That's her. Smoke." Trooper Kukowski again, what'd she say? I respond, said the Alberts beat the shit out of O'Keefe, left him for dead, and that's why her taillight was cracked. She's gross. Trooper DeChico, oh, fuck her, bitch.
Wow. Great.
Thank you, sir. May I approach to retrieve your arm?
Yes.
Sir, with reference to that last bit, as far as June 9th, 2022, what was going on that day in reference to this matter again?
Miss Reed was being processed at the Milton Barracks.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't see this guy working for the Massachusetts State Police after this.
I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
That internal investigation by the Massachusetts State Police does sound like it's probably related to this case. I haven't heard any confirmation that it is, but I mean, how could it not be? How could he not be internally investigated for this crap? Let's fast forward.
Approach. Documents to recognize those.
Oops, sorry, going back.
Can we give another set of documents to recognize those?
I do.
What do you recognize those to be?
Another text thread with members from my office, troopers.
And who are the troopers that are listed within that?
Trooper Chris Moore, Trooper Jeff Kukowski, Lieutenant John Fanning, Trooper Dave DeChico, and Sergeant Yuri Buchanan.
And what is the first message sent, date and time?
That would be 5/26/2022 at 8:19 p.m. Last message sent, date and time, 8/26/2022, 5:36 p.m.
And what is listed as far as the number of messages within this chain?
651.
And fair to say the documents before you do not contain all 651 of those messages within this chain. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now,
This is just, it's insane how many text messages there are that are coming up, right? Like, it's just, it's, this is just so bad. This is just so bad.
sir, if I could direct your attention to page 2682. You see a message sent from Trooper DeChico on August 17th, 2022 at 9:42 p.m.
Yes.
And is that an image contained on the next page, which is 2683?
Yes, it is.
And what is the image of?
That is a picture of Mr. Yannetti. Appears to be from quite some time ago.
Now, turning your attention to the next page,
Oh.
2684.
Oh, are they going to mock Yannetti now too?
There's a response from you, August 17th, 2022 at 9:44 p.m. Is that correct?
And please.
Sure. Page 2684, 8/17/2022, 9:44 p.m.
Yes,
You see there's like sort of three responses from you.
I have you now.
If you could just read the three responses from yourself, sir.
Okay, so these came from me. Funny, I'm going through his retarded client's phone. No nude so far. I hate that man. I truly hate him.
Now, with reference to,
So it is good that Yannetti's not the one that's cross-examining him, because that could appear to be personal. I mean, unless there's also maybe we're about to see some text messages about him talking about Alan Jackson as well. But just like, of course, why wouldn't he also have text messages where he's trashing the lawyers on the other side as well? It's just, why wouldn't he? At this point, why not? Oh my God. Folks in the chat that are saying, who is Yannetti? That's David Yannetti, one of the lead defense attorneys. So he's the guy with, is he balding? I don't know. He's got shorter hair, but he's the one from Boston. So he's the one with a Boston accent, not Alan Jackson, who's from Los Angeles.
the investigation at this point. When you're talking about his client's phone, who are you referring to?
Miss Reed.
And with regards to the phone at that point, can you describe for the jury sort of what's going on during this time period of August 17th, 2022 in regard to Ms. Reed's phone?
So after obtaining a search warrant for Miss Reed's phone, we weren't able to extract any data from it until August of 2023. Troopers in my office knew I was going through the phone that evening. I was most interested in location data, text messages, Google searches. That was the update I gave the troopers in the office. It was a distasteful joke. I should have gave a proper update instead of that. I wasn't able to go through the phone as thoroughly as possible because I came across some text between an attorney and Ms. Reed, so I had to stop going through her phone, and I made my supervisors aware of those communications.
Also, if there is anyone on the jury that has a friend, close friend, or a loved one or a family member who has any kind of any kind of mental illness, like there's been a lot of commentary on that, but who has something like Down syndrome or something like that, like is very sensitive to that kind of thing, using that R word that he used to describe her as low intelligence, that's the connotation that he's using it, is going to be offensive as well. Like there's so many, like, what next? Are there also racist texts? Are we going to get into some racism here too? Like, let's hear it. Let's hear it, Trooper Proctor. Like, what else?
Now, just in reference to what you had just said, this is in August of 2022, is that correct?
Correct.
So after a search warrant is obtained for the defendant's phone, where did it go? You indicated you gave it to Trooper Garino, and where did it go from there?
Trooper Garino essentially hooks it up to a device called Gray Key, where it tries every possible combination passcodes in order to access the data contained in the phone.
And at that time, when you retrieved it pursuant to the search warrant, you didn't have the passcode to the defendant's phone, is that correct?
Correct.
So that device is designed to sort of go through numbers and try to find a combination to get into the phone, correct?
Correct.
And so from the time that you had seized it in late January or on January 29th, 2022, until this date in August of 2022, had you been able to get into the phone or see anything in the phone in those intervening months or 7 months between January and August?
No.
And so then at this time that you're sending this text message in August of 2022, is that around the time that you were first able to? And with reference to...
Why does that sound like a cross-examination question? So the first opportunity that you had that you were able to access this phone, you looked for nudes. That's the implication here with that question and answer. Like, I'm sorry, what? Why would you ask that, Lally? So, okay, great. We like him even more, she said again, sarcastically.
Your access to the phone, were you looking for nudes or anything like that in regard to the defendant?
Oh, no, of course not.
I'll allow it.
No, like I stated, I was most interested in Miss Reed's location data, text communications, Google searches, things of that nature.
Yeah,
more evidence contained within.
I was a total professional. Trust me now when I'm sitting in front of the jury. Don't trust me when I don't think that anybody is watching me. What I really wanted was the legitimate evidence that was on her phone. I wasn't going to be first looking for nudes.
Within the phone.
And so, sir, you mentioned at some point you came across some information that caused you to sort of freeze your looking through the phone. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so as far as that specific time period in August of 2022, when was the next time that you or any troopers from your office were able to actually look at any extraction of the defendant's phone?
So once I came across that text communication that took place on the 29th between Ms. Reed and an attorney, the phone had to be sent off to what they call a taint team to remove any attorney-client privilege information from the phone, and then it would be returned to us, as well as defense received a copy of that as well. I'm not positive on the time it was quite a long turnaround for that process to be completed.
Sometime at least in the spring or summer of 2023. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right.
May I approach to retrieve, Your Honor?
Yes.
Press forward.
I-
Oops, sorry.
The questions, Your Honor.
All right. So I'm going to see you at sidebar so I don't interrupt your cross.
Cross-examination. Okay. All right. Cross-examination is up now. All right. We will be fast forwarding through this sidebar, but let me first change the pinned chat, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Yeah. Let's see here. It's Sophie 1518. How do you fix this testimony? I don't think it can be fixed. I don't think it can be fixed. If we're going into cross-examination and it already looks bad, how do you think it's going to look at the end of cross-examination? Okay, here we go, guys. Cross-examination. Wait, sorry. Did she just shake her head while looking at him? The sister-in-law. Okay, whatever. We missed it. Maybe not. This is just absolutely insane. The indignity of having to be the subject of all those text messages is just horrific. You guys, I'm getting so passionate that I'm starting to develop a Bostonian accent by saying things like horrific instead of horrific. What is happening?
And so we'll finish it.
Okay.
Unmuted.
All right. So just before you start then, so we'll finish it for, we're trying to figure out the schedule. There's time I'm going to need with the lawyer.
Are we frozen a bit? Or is this working? Okay. Okay, I think we're okay. Okay, cool.
Maybe on Friday, but it does now look good that we'll be able to continue with this. We're out tomorrow, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday will be full days.
Oh, so we are
And we'll
still
be
out
able to
tomorrow.
keep moving. All right. All right, Mr. Jackson, go right
Okay.
ahead.
Thank you, Robin. Super Proctor, in the summer of 2022, August 17th specifically, you were sitting at your desk, presumably alone at your office, at about 10 p.m. at night, going through my client's personal cell phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
As a matter of fact, you were sitting there texting with your friends and colleagues at Massachusetts State Police about you going through her personal cell phone. Is that right?
Correct, sir.
And that included Trooper DeChico, is that right?
DeChico, yes, sir.
Trooper Fanning, Trooper Buchnick, Trooper Moore, and Trooper Kaczkowski.
Kakowski.
Tell me that again.
Kakowski.
Kakowski.
Yes, sir.
Jackson struggles with the Slavic names. Buchanik, not Buchanik. Kaskowski.
All right, all the consonants are silent. Fair enough. Trooper Fanning and Trooper Buchnick are your supervisors.
Yes.
And you were bragging to all 5 of them that you were going through Karen Reed's cell phone about 9:45 at night.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Is that right?
No, I wasn't bragging, sir.
Are you
How
sure?
did you refer to Miss Reed in that text exchange where you informed them that you were going through her phone?
I used regrettable language. I said going through his retarded client's phone right now.
You were shown a photograph of my colleague, Mr. Unetti, correct?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Yes, show these things. Show them on the screen.
Same document. Oh, Your Honor, I think the court has the copy that I was going to use.
I thought I gave him back to you.
Yeah, and Jillian, and you mentioned in the chat about, referencing the fact that he's texting this to his superiors as well. So his supervisors, which does speak to the culture in this office. It smells like rot. That's not just him. It smells like it's the entire office that is rotten. Because if he feels comfortable enough texting that to them, what else are they doing and saying outside of those text messages?
You'd received a photograph. Actually, Your Honor, if I could, I would ask that this document be marked as next in order. Assuming that the witness verifies its authenticity.
So go ahead.
Do you recognize this document?
I do, sir.
Same document that you were shown, copy of the same document that you were shown by Mr. Yannetti, correct?
Stilali.
I've done that twice. Mr. Lally.
Correct.
All right. Is that a true and accurate reflection of the text messages that you were exchanging with Chris Moore, Jeff Kakowski, John Fanning, Vito DiCicco, and Yuri Buchanan?
Yes.
I'd ask that this be marked.
Okay, any objection?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I'll see you outside down there. Have that, please.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're about 20 minutes behind. They probably are ending now for the day, like in real time now. So we'll get caught up in the next 20 minutes or less, unless I keep stopping to comment. But I can't help myself because this is just insane. But yeah, Lally's objections so far
Ask you,
are nothing.
and then I would ask you to give it back to the witness, please.
Yeah, Lally's objections, the only effect that they're having right now is to punctuate how much the prosecution does not want this particular testimony to be heard. That's all it does. So just don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she said that she would end for the day at 4:00 today, not 4:30. But she said before that they would go until 4:30. It keeps, all of these things keep changing. Do we have testimony tomorrow? Do we not? I don't know.
May I inquire, Your Honor?
Yes.
Trooper Proctor, Trooper DiCicco had sent you a photograph of my colleague, Mr. Yannetti, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, because of the technical issue, I'm not going to display on the television. May I display this hard copy briefly?
Sure.
Thank you. You see that, gentleman?
I do, sir.
Is that the photograph that you received?
Yes.
Is that what you referred to on direct examination with Mr. Lally about receiving a photograph from Mr. Yannetti?
Correct.
And then your response was what?
I hate that man. I truly hate that man.
Actually, your response was, I'm going through his retarded client's phone right now, correct?
Yes, after the picture, sir. Yes.
Who's the retarded client?
I was referring to Miss Reed again, unprofessional language.
I'm asking who you were referring to.
Miss
I know
Reed.
You got an explanation. Who was it that you were referring to as retarded?
Miss Reed.
Karen Reed, the woman sitting to my left.
Yes, sir.
The subject of your investigation as a professional, correct?
Yes, sir.
As an unbiased, objective investigator, the person that you were investigating, you referred to your bosses as retarded, correct?
Again, poor language on my part.
Poor language is one way to put it. Completely offensive is another way to put it, right?
Yes.
I've got to sustain that, Mr. Jackson.
Whatever. I don't care. like I don't care that it was sustained, because I agree with him. I completely agree with him. That's horribly offensive. I mean, honestly, he could have just, softened that just a little bit at the end to be like, correct. Would that be another way of saying it? Would you agree that is terribly offensive? But who cares? It doesn't matter.
After you referred to my client as retarded, then you decided to make a comment about Mr. Yannetti, her lawyer, correct?
Correct.
And what did you say about Mr. Yannetti again?
I hate that man. I truly hate that man.
I hate that man. I truly hate him, correct?
Correct.
You didn't say I dislike him, I disagree with him. You said I hate him, correct?
Correct, sir.
That's a visceral response to someone who's just doing a job, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently.
Sure.
You can
Let me
ask it
it this way. Were you upset or annoyed or pissed off that Karen Reed had gotten representation, legal representation, to represent her?
No, not at all. That's her right.
Oh, of course not. Oh, of course not. No, that's her right. I wasn't mad about that at all. We totally trust that, don't we? Guys, all of us watching, jury? Internet, you are killing me. You're killing me, Smalls. Oh, good Lord.
Well, let me ask you this. In August of 2022, you said you absolutely hate it, correct?
I don't know if I use absolutely. Yeah, I didn't use absolutely, sir.
You used truly, correct?
Truly, yes.
How do you feel about him now? Sitting right there.
I still don't care for him now.
I'll let it stand.
What did you tell your colleagues that you were looking for as you sat at almost 10 p.m. at night on a Wednesday night, August 17th, 2022, looking through Karen Reed's phone?
I didn't tell them I was looking through anything. They knew I was going through Miss Reed's phone. I provided a inappropriate joke as an update. They knew I was going through location data, text messages, Google searches. But like I mentioned earlier, I had to stop.
Except Trooper Proctor, none of that really professional sounding stuff ended up in your comments to your bosses, did it?
Again, it was a poor joke.
Is that yes or no?
Did not know.
It did not.
No,
As a
sir.
matter of fact, what did you write after you talked about going through the quote retarded client's phone?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
He's using the word that he used in real life. I mean, this is the thing. It's like he is making this as painful as possible for Trooper Proctor, and that is his right on cross-examination. You know, barring him getting argumentative and just making commentary, if he uses the same spicy language that Trooper Proctor used in those text messages, and he beats him over the head with it with further questioning. Yeah, this is 100% an adversarial process, and that is the right of the cross-examining attorney to do that, to take the words that the witness has used and beat them over the head with it. And yeah, once again, you know, continuing to reference, this is how you are talking to your bosses, your supervisors. No one is reprimanding you for talking this way. So what is this culture? What is this work culture in your office? Again, like this is just going to like the rot running deep in this office.
No nudes so far.
No nudes so far, correct?
Correct.
So
Well, you
far.
said that to your
He's
bosses.
still looking for
Yes,
it.
sir.
You were looking for naked photographs of Miss Reed on a Wednesday night as you sat in your office at 9:44 p.m., correct?
No, not correct.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever looked for naked photos of a male suspect
Ooh.
that you were investigating?
I don't look for naked photos on anyone's phones.
Really?
But you said you were looking for nudes of Miss Reed,
Like I had
correct?
said, Mr. Jackson, it was an inappropriate joke.
Sir, this is a citizen. She's a woman. You were supposed to be objectively investigating. Does your text message to your colleagues at Massachusetts State Police reflect an objective investigation of a citizen?
Objection.
You can get part of that question and ask it again.
Do you believe that your text messages were reflective of an objective investigator?
Objection.
I'll allow that. Do you believe that, Trooper Proctor?
I believe poor jokes have, in unprofessional language, have no bearing on the integrity and the facts and physical evidence of this case.
It's not that they don't
Bullshit. I'm sorry. Just like him trying to say, well, this had no bearing on the investigation. This had no bearing on the investigation. Now, who in their right mind is going to take him at his word on that? Like, seriously. This is ridiculous. How can anyone possibly take him seriously? Like, this is just the level of disgust that I feel as more testimony comes out from this man's mouth is astounding. I have never seen anything like this before. This is just absolute disgusting insanity. I'm so disgusted by this human being, by this foul human being who has access to people's phones, who has access to all kinds of information that is private and sensitive, that are just of other citizens. And what is he doing with it? Is he respecting the integrity of the people that he is coming across, of the citizens that he's supposed to serve and protect? No, absolutely not. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting.
they don't have any bearing on the facts and integrity. It's that they have no place in a professional investigation because it shows bias.
Yep.
Right?
Objection.
So I have to sustain that as asked. Go ahead and ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
It's funny because she's like, I have to sustain that, as asked. She's like, I have to, not that I want to. I have to.
You weren't so much as objectively investigating Karen Reed as objectifying her, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Isn't that right?
Rephrase the question, please.
You weren't so much as objectively investigating her as objectifying her in those moments, correct?
Again, Mr. Jackson, it was a poor choice of words and a joke that I should not have texted out. But from the start of the investigation, we didn't know what we had.
And your Trooper Proctor, your point in saying no nudes so far to your colleagues in Massachusetts State Police was to suggest that you were looking for nudes and you'd update them when you found them, correct?
Incorrect.
Well, let me ask you a question. Did you find any nudes of
Again,
Karen Reed?
I didn't go through the photos, sir.
Did you find any nudes of Karen Reed?
I didn't go through the photos, sir. I came
You didn't answer the question.
I came across text messages from Miss Reed to another attorney on January 29th, so I had to stop looking through her phone.
So you got sidetracked before you could get to the naked pictures of Miss Reed. Is that what you're saying?
Sustained.
Woo! I don't even care. I don't even care that this is like a lot of this is just commentary.
To be clear, when you sent those
Because
texts,
he's saying what we all are thinking and feeling. Like, this is just like, as far as I'm concerned, get him. Get him. This guy makes all cops look bad. This guy makes all cops look terrible because he's the one that is being put in the spotlight and he's the one that's abusing his authority. It's just this, like I said, he disgusts me.
text messages on that group chat. There's text messages included, as we said, or as you said, not one, but two of your supervisors, correct?
Correct.
Were you ever reprimanded for your conduct in sending that text message?
Objection.
So that's sustained. Do we need to go to sidebar based on what you told me earlier?
We do not.
Okay, so,
I'll ask it a different way.
okay.
Did either
Really quick, before he asks that, Shelly's Flowers, thank you so much for the very generous super chat. Will KR be able to sue Proctor for slander after this trial, or what recourse will Karen Reed be able to pursue? Well, damages here would not be able to flow necessarily from the testimony in court right now. But, slander, so that's a defamation case. This is talking about whether or not the statements that he's making about her are true or false, or if they are just straight up opinion. And so this, to me, so far, the text messages that are absolutely horrific that have come out in this case are his opinion. So I don't know that we can get a defamation claim out of this, but I mean, maybe being reviled by the entire world is a good start as far as punishment to him. But man, like it's just so bad. It's just so bad. This guy is just disgusting. Thank you so much again for the super chat.
Either Trooper Fanning or Trooper Buchanan dress you down in a responsive text message.
Nope.
In that text thread.
Nope.
For doing something so abhorrent as looking for nudes or referring to nudes of a female suspect or subject of your investigation. Did that ever happen?
Not that I can recall.
Mm-mm.
As a matter of fact, in reference to
they celebrated
one of
it?
the text messages in the same string, your boss, Yuri Buchanan,
Ooh.
actually responded to the photo of Mr. Yannetti, didn't he?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
What did he say?
He did, sir.
What did he say?
After you received the photo, that's when you said, I'm, quote, funny, I'm going through his retarded client's phone.
He's
Is that
going
right?
over it again.
Objection.
I'll allow this, but not too many.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's
Is that correct? It's on
Ask
the
and
top of
answer.
page
Yes, sir.
685.
That's correct.
And Yuri Buchanan liked that comment. Funny, I'm going through his retarded client's phone. Didn't he?
I see you laughed at an image here, sir.
oh, even worse.
I can't tell if he liked that comment, sir.
May I approach?
That's even
Yes.
worse. That's even worse. He didn't thumbs up. He gave it an iMessage haha on the text. He laughed at it. Oh, this rod is deep.
I don't know if it's just because it's faded or... Yeah, my copy's faded.
Top 2685. You can use my copy if that helps.
All right. Thank you.
And also, really quick here. Kiana McKim, thank you so much for the super chat. Very kind and generous of you. Well, will any cases he has worked on be subject to being reopened or appealed? If I'm a defense attorney in this area and Trooper Proctor was the lead investigator or had any kind of hands, or actually any of these guys in this text message thread, if any of them had any hands on a case of a client of mine who was actually convicted, yeah, I'm appealing. I'm opening up a whole other inquiry on all of this stuff. I am raising hell about it, particularly if the defendant is female, especially, but not just in that kind of a case. There's enough here that just screams it's not just a sexist thing. This is just a rotten cop and a rotten I don't know, department or office, or however deep this goes. This is rotten.
Thank you.
What do you see on the top of that page?
That Sergeant Buchanan liked it.
Like what?
The going through his retarded client's phone, sir.
May I approach?
Yes.
I'll take my copy.
There you go.
Okay, so he did like it.
So your supervisors at Massachusetts State Police not only didn't ride you for making comments like this, he encouraged it.
Objection.
Sustained.
This case is insane.
Trooper Proctor, this is your direct chain of command. Is that right? Yuri Buchanan?
Yes, sir.
Did you believe that your conduct was a misuse of your authority and power
Yes.
as you were going
There's
through
no
her
other
phone
answer but
in
yes.
August of 2022?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
So this is one of those beautiful cross-examination questions where there's no good answer. There's absolutely no good answer, because he has to admit that he is a horrible human being and terrible, at his job in terms of, I don't know, just being a decent human being with the people that he's investigating, or he has to say, no, it's all good.
No, I had a warrant signed by a district clerk, Stoughton district clerk, to go through Miss Reed's phone. I don't think it was an abuse of power. I had every right to go through that phone.
It was not an abuse of power because I had a warrant. Well, what was that warrant based off of, sir? That warrant was based off of information that you or your office put in front of the judge. So how does that not still circle back to you and these other dinguses that you're working with that are all commenting and loving all of these sexist comments of you looking for nudes and all of this other crap? Like, how does that not still come back to you, Mr. Doofus?
The warrant say anything about looking for nudes.
Objection.
Did it
No,
say anything about that?
no, Your Honor.
Okay, next question.
So that would be an abuse of the power that was given to you by the court, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did the warrant say anything about looking for nudes?
Trooper Proctor, you'd agree that the hallmark of any good investigation, as you've been taught and others in Massachusetts State Police have been taught, is that the investigation and the investigator have to be fair. They have to be impartial. Would you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Meaning that the investigation has to be free of conflicts, right?
Yes, sir.
The investigator has to be free of conflicts, right?
Yes,
The investigation has to be free of bias. Is that right?
correct.
You can't be against the person that you're investigating. That would compromise the entire thing, wouldn't it?
Yes,
Basically, you follow the evidence. You're supposed to follow the evidence wherever it takes you, right?
correct.
Good or bad, top to bottom, just follow the evidence and report it back. That's how an investigation is supposed to be run, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And these are things that you learn early on at Massachusetts State Police Academy and then in your detective training. Isn't that right?
It is.
And literally, it's part of an oath that you took at the academy that you will, quote, faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent on you as a Massachusetts State Police trooper, right?
Yes, sir.
You swore that oath.
I did.
Yep.
When you start an investigation, everybody in that investigation should be treated exactly the same. Don't you believe that's true?
Correct.
Everybody, have you ever heard the phrase, everybody's a suspect until they're not? Right?
Objection.
Sustained.
I mean, he still answered yes.
It's especially important early in an investigation before all of the facts are known.
Yep.
That the investigator is not compromised by bias, prejudice, right?
Correct.
Most important.
If I'm a juror right now, I would have such a hard time not nodding along to what Jackson is saying because I'm just so disgusted.
Important early in the investigation because that's when the most things are up in the air. There's the cloud, the fog of not knowing exactly what the truth is, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
In other words, Trooper Proctor, you don't get to pick a suspect and then try to find evidence to support your choice, right?
Correct.
But in this case, it's exactly what you did, isn't it?
Absolutely not.
All right, Mr. Jackson, why don't we end for today?
This is
Okay.
as good a place as any. Thank you.
Okay, all right. All right, so folks, we're off tomorrow. Those same three cautions, please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent
Sorry.
research.
I'm sorry. She just said,
All right,
We're off
so
tomorrow.
folks, we're off tomorrow.
Okay.
Those same three cautions, please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, read anything about the case, please disregard it and let us know. We'll see you Wednesday morning. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right now, it's anticipated will be full days of testimony with short ones. Okay, thank you.
yep. Okay. So you heard her, day off tomorrow. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, full days of testimony. Karen is loving her choice of attorneys right now. I can tell you that much. She did very well in choosing the attorneys that she chose. They are doing an amazing job for her. And it's amazing that they were able to get those text messages and just completely blow this case wide open. I do not see the prosecution recovering from this. I just don't.
All right, so one last time at sidebar for scheduling, okay?
Sidebar for scheduling. Okay, are we? Okay, so that was, let me just double check that there was nothing else. Okay. All right. Folks are leaving. That's it. Okay, cool. So that's the end of today's testimony. Let's get through some questions and then we'll head out for the day. Okay. Alrighty. I just want to make sure that I haven't missed any here. Okay. First off, let's see. Oh, sorry. This one first. LK Ryden, thanks so much for the super chat. I've seen and faced a lot of discrimination. Part of the reason I became an advocate, but since 2-year-old nephew, likely ADHD like me, was born, it hits so different. Thanks to Jackson for burning this field for us. Anyone who has dealt with any kind of mental illness, which, that's ADHD is not a mental illness, but, anything having to do with discrimination because of neurodivergence, mental illness, mental, other mental health issues, anything in that area is probably going to respond differently to hearing these kinds of, maybe not differently, but respond, with a certain level of knowing, right, to this testimony from today. So yeah, and I don't know, like for me personally, maybe it's because I've got a growing baby bump, but I'm just like, I'm feeling even more passionately about like, I don't know. It's like mama bear instincts have just gone up through the roof that I'm like so mad about this. But I would like to think that even before this stage of my life, I would have been very upset about these text messages and everything else as well. And just horrified at how this makes all police officers look. Boda Bob, thanks so much for the super chat. This guy is detailed to the Norfolk County DA's office. He works with and for Lally's boss. Is this the culture of the Norfolk County DA? I'm sure there are going to be a lot of questions. Okay, folks, let's get some more questions here. We've got a bunch to answer. So look up evidence, question Legalbytes. Do you know if they had probable cause to take the car phone? Oh, wait, we already answered this one. Let's see. Do we need to? Okay. Patrick Barrett, question. Do you think Lally is out of his league against Jackson and Yannetti? I think that I don't want to be, too harsh on Lally, but I do think that the skills that are apparent from Yannetti and Jackson are absolutely exceptional. And I think that they are on prime display in this particular case. I will say that much. How about that? Spunky Nuggets question, can the defense admit these into evidence and put them up on the screen for us? The text messages, yeah. It's interesting how they were not put up on the screen, even on cross-examination. Now, maybe that'll be different on Wednesday when Jackson continues with this cross-examination. But I mean, at this point, do we even need to see them now? Like, he went over them enough with enough detail and with enough pain for the witness that I think that it could be sufficiently seared into the minds of the jurors as well at this point. Notice question, are there criminal consequences for him regarding leaking classified information to his friends, or is that handled inside the police force? Well, there is an internal investigation apparently into Trooper Proctor and conduct having to do with his time working for the Massachusetts State Police. So whether that is specifically about this case has not been confirmed by anyone, but it sure as hell sounds like it based on what's come out at this point. If not, there should be. But criminal consequences, I don't know about criminal consequences. If there is a protective order in place when this kind of stuff is happening, there could be, but I mean, the consequences are first and foremost this cross-examination and possibly losing the case because of that. Like it's that bad. Scott Goad, Legalbytes, it would be interesting for you to watch and react to YSL trial for today. Defense attorney was just held in contempt and removed from the courtroom. Oh my gosh, I have not been keeping up with that trial at all. I know it's been going on for like actually 84 years. But that one has been an absolute odyssey as well. much more of an odyssey, I would argue, because of the fact that that they've been in trial for like months. I mean, hasn't it been since like January or something? If I have time, I will take a look, but I can't guarantee it just because of how busy I am with recaps here and all that kind of stuff. Jonathan Willig question, HIPAA violation in the least for him to have made comments about her private medical history. There has to be some rule regarding police doing that, i.e. cops that Kobe's widow sued over pics of body. Well, she didn't sue for HIPAA. And HIPAA typically only covers the doctors and hospitals and like billing companies that have regular access to this medical information. However, I mean, there still is information that is private information that gets leaked. I mean, so in response to the last comment, I said maybe not criminal repercussions, but there could be civil repercussions to revealing private information. There could be. She could potentially sue him for leaking that kind of information, talking about it to people, because that's sensitive in nature, and he only has access to it because he has a very privileged position. It's not just anybody that can have access to her medical records like that. So, yeah. Doctor Who 8675309. This is the star witness who is going to tell us why KR is a murderer, and his testimony is this broken. How in the hell did this case get to trial? Does defense go mistrial motion now? Probably not, but they will have one hell of an argument for dismissing this case after the prosecution rests their case in chief. Chances are the judge is still going to allow it to proceed to the defense's case in chief. Because like I said, the judge has to say that as to at least one element of a claim, at the very least one, maybe more, there has to be at least a chinchilla of evidence, if you will, that basically checks that box. And the judge can't be weighing the evidence when making that determination, because anytime the judge starts weighing the evidence, she is taking away the job of the jury. So that's the jury's job, not the judge's job. So, but the defense is going to have one hell of an argument, like I said, that I'm sure is going to be absolutely fireworks, I would imagine. La Heather's question, can the defense ask the judge to dismiss this case once the prosecution closes? They can, and they will try. Whether the judge agrees, I mean, if she does, it would be absolutely stunning. I wouldn't expect it, though. Jerry Roth, Legalbytes, did this guy lose his job? This now makes me think more and more it was a frame job. It does feel that way, right? It certainly feels that way after this testimony. I don't know if he was actually fired. It sounds like he's working for a different police department. I do know that he was the subject of an internal investigation. L. Borate, isn't spousal communication protected? I know I asked a few days ago, how is this admissible? There are some exceptions to it. I mean, you can't hide behind spousal communications. There are some exceptions to it. I've never heard of an exception having to do with a police officer talking to his wife about the investigation that he is that he is involved in. But it wouldn't surprise me if there was an exception for it. That's a valid one. I mean, at this point, it was allowed in after all. So I would imagine that there is an exception. It is a very strong immunity, but it's not impervious. There definitely are exceptions to it, like I said. Elena, question, will the jury be able to read and look at these texts? I think so, because it seems like they've all been admitted. Dianita Jaclo, question, why he doesn't show the messages to the jury? Can the defense? I think the defense should be able to. But they chose not to. And also, there's a question about the poll. Poll is not yet closed. I'll leave it open for a minute, and then we'll close it, and then before we close out the stream. LK write down question: is it possible that we have all been drugged and this is just a hallucination? A fever dream is more like it. What is happening? Yes, absolute fever dream, insanity. Mike Olson, at least Proctor is hot like Brad Pitt, so he might have won a few jurors that way. I don't want to comment on his appearances. Jackie de Hernandez, question at this point, do you think it would have been better for Proctor to plead the fifth? And if it had been that way, could these messages be admitted as evidence anyway? The messages probably could have been admitted anyway. Because those are yeah. So in the problem with him then pleading the fifth is he can't contextualize them. He can't answer for them. It's just okay. Now we're back. Just want to make sure. Are we back? Okay. We're back. Yeah, and then those text messages would have maybe needed to come in through other witnesses, maybe. Or no, maybe, I mean, I don't know. But regardless, someone could have testified about those, and it would have looked bad if he pled the fifth. It still could have looked bad, which it's not supposed to be something that the jury takes into account anytime anyone pleads the fifth. They're not supposed to, make some sort of a conclusion about somebody's guilt, whether that's the defendant or any other witness. Sometimes it does happen, but yeah, I don't know. This was unfortunately for the prosecution, Trooper Proctor and all of his diarrhea mouth, as he referred to someone else, actually, ironically, but all of his text messages here completely blew up his position. There was no good position, whether he testified or not. There was no good position for him, and therefore for the prosecution. I don't see why this case was even brought as soon as that was brought to light. Just Chi Things question, Legalbytes, are you pro KR? I am. So going into this case, I had no opinion whatsoever. In fact, that's like the biggest critique. If you go back and look at the primer video that I put up before trial, looking into some of the basics, but not going too deep into the case. That's like the biggest criticism that people in the comments have of that video is I'm non-committal, that I don't really have an opinion on anything. I say, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this, it could be that. Some people say this, some people say that. And I'm just kind of presenting both sides. And so that's like the biggest criticism that people have of that video. And that's because truly, like, going into it, I am open to both sides and what they are presenting. As we are going along and more evidence is coming out, my opinion is getting shaped by the evidence. That's the definition of having a fact-based analysis, is you base it off of facts, and that can change over time, right? Like I've even said so far that, I had a lot of thoughts, going into like today, I think at the beginning of the day today, someone had asked, how would I vote in the poll as to whether she should be, guilty, not leaning guilty, not guilty, or need more information. And I said leaning not guilty because I see a lot of reasonable doubt. However, the prosecution is still in their case in chief, and I'm watching for all of the evidence that they put out on the table in front of the jury, and that can change my mind potentially. So, here, in terms of, like, I look at it not so much as did she do it, did she not do it? I look at it as, has the prosecution met their burden in proving that she murdered him? And so far, no, absolutely not. And at this point, I don't know if I can possibly say that they will have ever met their burden after the testimony of Trooper Proctor. I don't know that I can ever get there now because of what I've seen. I just don't know. I don't think so. So the Lucian Legalbytes question. I'm sure prosecution tried to keep these texts out. Do we know what arguments prosecution used to exclude them? I'm curious. I don't know, because I wasn't following during like the most of the run up to, at least not that closely. Okay. Tish, Legalbytes, this all feels like the glass lady witness. Is he trying to get ahead of the bad testimony, or is he just reading in the evidence? I don't see him doing much rehabilitation work. I don't know how much could be rehabilitated. I mean, other than, Lally does ask him, what did you mean by that? And that is an open invitation for him to explain the behavior, other than saying, oh, this is a poor choice of words. Okay, there we are. And we're back. Yeah, the explanations, as far as I'm concerned, were just not good enough to rehabilitate. They just weren't. And that was, I think, even more damaging to see this come out in this way, because of the fact that when given the best possible opportunity, he couldn't do it. It's very unfortunate for the prosecution, but from my position, I don't care. What I care about is facts, is the information coming out, the proper information coming out in front of the jury, and this case happening properly. Daniel Nagy question, Legalbytes, imagine all this coming out in the defense's case. Lally had to jump ahead to soften the blow. Otherwise, AJ would have buried Proctor. It would have been even worse. It would have been. So his superiors were in on it, also from Daniel Nagy, as well, and not reprimand him for such language disrespect. They must be disbanded. I mean, I don't know about disbanded, but, there certainly is rot that needs to be taken care of somehow. Stephen Horton, Legalbytes, other than the internet, are you enjoying the island? Yes. We saw dolphins yesterday. It was awesome. They even jumped way out of the water at one point. It was really great. And we've seen some bison, which is great too. Daniel Nagy question, why did he go through the phone manually rather than using Celebrate to extract the data? He didn't testify as to why he did it that particular way. I mean, there are multiple ways of inspecting a phone. Jackie De Hernandez, Legalbytes, do you think this is entertaining for Karen or hard for her to hear, seeing as it's attacking her quite a bit, or is it vindicating enough? Personal opinion question. I think that it's probably a mix of painful and also vindicating. I would imagine that it's really, really painful to hear this kind of stuff get rehashed again and again, but to hear it in the context of someone like being an attack dog on behalf of her, and to do so with righteous indignation in the way that Jackson is like, she's being defended by someone in the way that someone should be in this kind of context. The Rubber Duck 77, Legalbytes, question, Proctor is trying his best not to be argumentative and stay calm. How long will it last? Well, he had his moments too. But, the question is, like, those of us watching and listening, are you mad about his comments that he made that were argumentative or not? I mean, he was saying what I was feeling. So it's hard to not just agree with what he's saying there. Daniel Nagy question, this should trigger an investigation into every case he and Massachusetts State Police ever touched. If you sorry. Okay, let's redo this. Okay, 1 out of 2. This must trigger an investigation into all the cases he has ever touched. If you were the lawyer of someone he/MA State Police investigated, would you appeal or retrial or something? Yeah, I would certainly open an inquiry for sure, at the very least. Jonathan Willig, this makes my stomach turn worse than Mark Furman using the N-word during the OJ investigation. Have you ever seen something this horrific? No, I have never seen something this bad. I have not. That doesn't mean that something this bad hasn't existed, just not what I have seen. Um, it's really bad. It's really, really bad. Sharply opinionated question: does anyone really believe he stopped as soon as he saw text messages with her lawyer? After all we have heard so far, do you really believe that he did? There's no. It seems the limit does not exist. Sable Marquette question: how would the nudes be relevant to this case in the first place? They're not. This is just somebody taking advantage of an authoritative position that he has. Ashley Roman question: do you think there was any weighing by the DA's office as to if they should bring this case or not due to the level of unprofessionalism, or are they so hardcore that this doesn't even faze them? So I have a feeling, I don't know the timing of when the defense successfully got the extraction from Trooper Proctor's phone to get all of these text messages, but I would imagine that happened relatively late in the litigation. And it could also be that the prosecution at that point was like, we're in too deep. We can't not continue. I don't agree with that. I think that there is always a stage at which the prosecution can say, we're not litigating this further. Because if certain evidence comes up that shows we're not going to be able to win this case, they should dismiss the case voluntarily. But it could be that they sort of internally looked at the situation and was like, we're in too deep. We've got to keep going. But again, I would disagree with that if that's the case. Jackie De Hernandez: do trial lawyers train work on not laughing during testimony? I would struggle, especially when the judge says these things like, did it? Yeah. Yeah, you've got to control the face. You have got to control the face. You cannot be laughing out loud in court. You cannot be, doing these things, because you will get reprimanded by the judge if you do. So that is all stuff that you've got to, if you are litigating a case in court, whether it's a hearing or a trial, anything in court, you've got to comport yourself with the requisite level of professionalism. So, I have a very privileged position, I could say, by being able to sit here and react naturally the way that I want to react. It's because I'm not in the courtroom. If I were in the courtroom, I would be maybe scribbling furiously in my notes to get all of those reactions out there. But yeah, facial expressions, shouting things in response, those would all be completely nixed. Doctor Who 8675309: I feel like Bowles from the HGR would have destroyed this cop. Bowles could have also done a good job from the Hannah Gutierrez retrial, the Russ Armour trial. Yes. LK Ryden: just with my nephew, no baby bump of my own. If I got mad before, now I'm in, I need to calm down at level every time. I choose to call it extra perspective. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Mike Olson: same question as in the start of today. What will CW have to show you for not losing here and now? I mean, like I said before, I don't know that the prosecution can do it now. I don't know that they can change this case for me. There's just like the central investigator, and not just him, but even other witnesses that we have seen testify, like Yuri Buchanan, included in these text messages and also reacting to these things in a way that is unprofessional and unbecoming of any police officer. I can't. I don't think, and also him testifying on the stand that 16 to 18 hours in after this incident happened, he made a determination that it was definitely Karen Reed, that they didn't need to look at anybody else. That's way too soon to be making that determination about any criminal defendant, unless you have like 20 witnesses that can be corroborated by surveillance footage saying I saw this thing happen, and then there's also a confession. But like there are some situations where you can make that determination early, but in a case like this where there's a lot of gray area, and 16 to 18 hours in, he decided not only that this definitely had to have been Karen Reed and no one else, but also on top of that that's what he used to justify his comments about Karen Reed, his nasty, disgusting comments about Karen Reed being a woman and objectifying her, and also about her medical conditions. That's what he used to justify it. Like, I don't know that there is any coming back from this. Sharply opinionated, Legalbytes, it has nothing to do with your baby coming. I'm an old man and I'm disgusted by what this trooper has texted, not just with his bosses, but with his BFF and his wife. I agree. Yeah. Daniel Nagy, it's not Lally being out of his league. It's the shit show of a case he has to prosecute. I wonder whose decision it was to move ahead with the trial. Just based on today, KR should have been acquitted. Yeah, I don't see, folks have asked quite a bit, at various stages of this trial, how did this case proceed to trial? And I'm asking the same thing at this point. How did this case proceed to trial? But also, why did Lally agree to prosecute this case? At the end of the day, it's his license that's also on the line here. I mean, if he's seeing this and he's seeing that a criminal defendant is going to have to go through all of this to defend herself and paying, how much in legal fees and how much of her life is taken up by this entire case. And then, and at a certain point, seeing the evidence just doesn't justify taking this to trial, and then he takes it to trial anyway. That also is a potential issue for his own professional responsibility. So if he's being forced to do it, an attorney can always walk away from the job. That's a hard thing to do, but it's an option. Joshua Marshall, question, will Ali be in court on Wednesday or any day after this? I think so. I don't see who else would be, right? Let me get this poll right here before I forget. Okay. Halfway through day 22, how do you lean regarding KR's murder charge? Yes, you can ask a free spouse question.
Regardless of their lack of competence, how likely is it that she did it? Like, given the evidence, lack of evidence of anyone else doing it.
Okay, wait, hang on. Regardless of their lack of competence, in other words, the investigators and the prosecutor here, how likely is it that she did it based on the evidence that's been presented? There still are so many gaps, in my opinion. So this is Mr. Bytes asking the free spouse question here. In my opinion, to answer his question, in my opinion, how likely is it? So in order for me to answer how likely is it, I have to answer, what is, like, you have to base that off of evidence, right? And I've seen a lot of people talking about Occam's razor. That means it's, the most likely explanation for this, for an event is the simplest one, right? And the thing is, when you're talking about Occam's razor, you're talking about likelihoods, and likelihoods only make sense to use, to rely on when you don't have evidence to rely upon. And here we're talking about evidence, and here we have to rely on evidence. We have to use evidence in order to make a determination. So, Occam's razor will get you to a certain point in approaching a subject, in explaining a subject, in talking about what you believe in. However, in this particular case, like I said, we have to go off of the evidence that's been presented. The evidence that has been presented shows Karen Reed, brought John O'Keefe to 34 Fairview Road after having so many drinks the night before. Were they all alcoholic? Were they not? I don't really know. I counted 4 of them that were alcoholic, maybe more. but for sure we don't know how much she ate before that point. We've got some testimony on some forensics about her blood alcohol content that requires a lot of math. There's a lot that can go one way or another way based on how you frame all of that. Also, when was the last time that she had a drink? So like there's a lot there that is still very nebulous in terms of like, can you hang your hat on whether or not she drove drunk that night? Whether or not she hit him can be a related question. You don't necessarily need to find that she, is guilty of a DUI for her to have murdered him. But, the side question of whether or not you think that she actually hit him with her car, there just are too many questions for me to be able to hang my hat on that and say, yes, I think she did it. There's just too much. We've got, Barros, who just testified today that when he saw the tail light, it had a crack. It had a small hole in it. Same thing with Carrie Roberts. She also was another prosecution witness, and she testified to the same thing. Saw a small crack in it, and there was like a metal piece or something that was sticking out of it. And like, how does that line up with the testimony that all of these pieces were found at 34 Fairview Road? Not, we happened to find them elsewhere because they fell off of the tail light as it was traveling up to Dighton, or as it was going back to Meadows Ave, or as it was going to all of these other places. Like, these pieces were all supposedly found at 34 Fairview Road, meaning they had to have been left there the last time she was there, which was the night of the incident. Okay, we're back. How is it that we have two witnesses that testified to seeing the next morning the taillight with a crack and some missing pieces, but most of them intact, and yet all of these other major pieces are found at the scene later? How do you explain that? The argument that she was framed makes more and more sense the more we go along in this trial, and I've been resistant to it so far, because it is such a strong theory and you really need a lot of evidence in order to back that up, in my opinion. So before I jump into this idea that they in fact framed her, like I want to make sure that I have zero doubt about that one, which you don't have to conclude that she was framed in order to say that she should be found not guilty. You don't have to go that far. But there's just so much here, even just from today, that looks like she was framed. So it's just, there's just so much crap here. I can't say that I believe that she hit him. I just can't, based on the evidence that's actually been presented. People can say Occam's razor all day and night, but that's not what makes a determination in any kind of a trial, criminal or otherwise. Heather S., how many people do you think are working behind the scenes on Karen's legal team? Just wondering what kind of powerhouse it takes to even get to the point where we see in court. Be assured, there absolutely are other people behind the scenes that are paralegals and possibly other associate attorneys and others. I don't know if you guys can hear that. That's some kind of a brake or something on someone's car. Yeah, rest assured, there are more people working behind the scenes. This takes a lot. To put on this kind of a trial, to put on this kind of a presentation from the defense, like, this takes a lot to be this smooth and this stellar. 100%. Cont'd in 1979. Legalbytes, was I the only one that heard Jackson say something about technical difficulties, and that was why he had to hold up the photo of Yannetti? Yeah, I think so. I think he said something about the TV screen. I mean, he still showed it to everyone else, including the camera. So that says to me that the photo was not something that like needed to be hidden from view. So everyone got to see it. It wasn't just the witness. So I think that there probably was some sort of an issue with displaying it, technologically speaking. Robert X77, Legalbytes, what are the chances that there isn't a motion to dismiss so the CW can't retry the case? Oh, a motion to dismiss. No, if the case is dismissed at the end of the prosecution's case in chief, it's dismissed on the merits. So it's dismissed for good. Like that's it. That's it. Double jeopardy attaches. She's free for good. Like do not pass go, do not collect $200. Prosecution cannot come back after her. Daniel Nagy question. She should sue the pants off Proctor and MA State Police. She might. Mark O'Hara, Legalbytes, how much do you think Karen has paid for her defense team so far? Easily in the six figures, multiple six figures, easily. And I think it could very well creep up to 7 with a full trial with these kind of stellar attorneys. I don't know what their billing rates are, but I would imagine it's a pretty penny. Sharply opinionated question. Do you or anyone really believe he thinks any of these texts were poor jokes? Or is that just because he got caught doing it? I think it's because he got caught. This is somebody, there's nothing about the situation that tells me that he was ever expecting these text messages to be found by anyone other than the other participants in these threads. Mike Olson, Legalbytes, okay, friends. I have to sleep now in a few hours. I have a last boss battle with my borderline boss, so pray for me. If I am not here Wednesday, tell the cops my boss did it. Oh, no. Good luck. Jackie Hernandez, Legalbytes, could you explain how the message with his wife is allowed in and not prejudicial? That's the line here between what messages can and can't be allowed in. So those can be, something, all evidence that is, what's the word here? Brain fart is happening. All evidence that is relevant is going to have some amount of prejudice, right? Because prejudice just means it leads to somebody making a conclusion about someone, right? There's going to be some amount of prejudice. Otherwise, what's the point in bringing it in? The question is it overly prejudicial and more prejudicial than probative? So, this is every bit of evidence has to be balanced in this way in order to determine whether or not it can be brought in. So, with these text messages that are very prejudicial, right? The text message of him talking about nudes, him talking about, her being, he's using slur words about her intelligence level. He's mocking her medical conditions. He's doing all these things. That's highly, highly prejudicial. However, it is more relevant than prejudicial because of the fact that he is the lead investigator in this case. And he is talking about the prime suspect, the defendant in this case. And that has a massive impact from the defense perspective, that has a massive impact on whether or not the investigation was done properly. So there is more here that is actually relevant to this particular case as to whether or not the prosecution is able to prove meet their burden to prove this case. They need the lead investigator. They need the lead investigator to do his job in a way that is proper, in a way that is not starting with bias, in a way that shows that he is not investigating someone or going after someone for all the wrong reasons. And so that's why it's more relevant than prejudicial to include the text messages, with his sister, with his wife, with all of the other colleagues. All of those indicate his state of mind and how that is potentially getting impacted by his biases about the defendant and by the fact that he has made an early conclusion about the defendant in this particular case. Doctor Who 8675309, you saw Dolphins yesterday. Were they Miami Dolphins? No, they were Catalina Dolphins. It was great. The Lucian question, as a client, would Karen have known the substance of Proctor's texts when her lawyers acquired them? Or is she hearing them for the first time in trial? Oh, she knew about them before. She definitely knew about this before today. There's nothing here that is surprise. There's nothing here that is a surprise to her, because she's known about all of this for sure for a long time. Let me just make sure that I've got all of these here. I know we've got a lot of questions. Justin Perry, Legalbytes, Proctor was the lead investigator for the Sandra Birchmore investigation, girl who submitted suicide. it was a big deal around here in Massachusetts. Yeah, I knew that Proctor, lead investigation. Ooh, interesting. I did not know that. Sorry, I thought you were talking about Yannetti prosecuting a particular case for some reason. But yeah, that I did not know. Uncivil Law, did you enjoy today's stupid? Enjoying it is another, like that's another way of putting it. Not so much enjoying it, but yeah, not so much enjoying it, but definitely losing my mind over it. Nashe Jones, question Proctor's testimony makes me angry enough to cry as a multiply neurodivergent person. The R word has been directed at me more than once. F that guy. And there may very well be people on the jury that feel the same way. Sharply opinionated question. Do you think the DA was hoping they could drag this out long enough that KR would go bankrupt and end up accepting a plea? Possibly. Maybe. The Lucian Legalbytes joke question. Can jurors just send a note to the judge asking them to rule in the case right now? No. Dayan Luich, thanks so much for the super chat. Who knows how high this goes? My bet Lally was forced. Could be. Dissimulate. Legalbytes. Let's not forget the cop from where her SUV was towed from, who testified that the taillight was only cracked with a small piece missing. That was 2:20 p.m. on the 29th. Yes. That was that was Officer Barros who testified that earlier today. Sharply opinionated question. How do you explain the CERT team missing all those large pieces of red taillight at 34 Fairview that miraculously appeared days and weeks later? I can't explain that to you. That's another perplexity in this trial that has not been adequately explained by the prosecution so far, in my opinion. LK Raiden, Legalbytes in this case, it's not that there is there. In this case, the there's everywhere. It's true. It is everywhere, isn't it? Sharply opinionated Legalbytes, do you believe KR will at least be able to recoup some funds with the docudrama or some sort of movie deal, or that will be blocked somehow? If it's after the trial, especially if she is, well, okay, if she's convicted, she won't be able to make money from the trial. She won't be able to, because there are laws against that in basically any jurisdiction. I would imagine Massachusetts also has a similar law. They're usually referred to as son of Sam laws. But if she's acquitted, however, she can totally go on a press tour. She can do all kinds of stuff and try to recoup some costs. Content in 1979, but could that be why the text messages weren't displayed either? In other words, that they were overly prejudicial? No, I don't think so. That wouldn't be the reason. That wouldn't be the reason for it. All right, folks, we've gotten through all of the questions here. If I missed any, I apologize. This has been quite a day today. Absolutely wild testimony, insanity. I am flabbergasted. I'm disgusted. I'm all kinds of things today. But thank you so much for joining me for this. This has been absolutely insane. Totally bananas. It took us a while to get through all of the commentary at the end. But I think it was absolutely worthwhile. So, like I said, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for commenting in the chat and in the comments if you're watching on replay, and all the generous super chats and folks that are joining the Bike Club community. Thank you so much also for supporting the channel in all of these ways, and also just for watching. And as always, thank you to the mods for helping to make sure that dialogue is robust yet healthy, and that folks feel comfortable enough to agree or disagree and bring all of their thoughts and perspectives, so that we can all engage in this and try to get to the truth with a capital T. All right, folks, that is it for me. And I got the poll. I got that. We're good. Okay. That's it. Day 21 recap will be out very shortly. It should be ready very, very shortly. And then otherwise, we're going to work on day 22, hopefully get that out before tomorrow's, there's no testimony. So getting that out tomorrow early in the day, that will, if we can do that. Yes. Okay. Alrighty. That is about it. Okay. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next one.